11 Bang Bang Reload Show starts now.
Well, hello everybody out there. Welcome back to the 11 Bang Bang Reload Show. We apologize for the delay. That was on me. I didn't give us quite enough time to get started. Tonight was supposed to be Anzac history with Trooper Cody and Steve from the War Horses channel, but unfortunately we couldn't get him. We had some technical difficulties, so we will try again next week. So tonight, this chat is just going to be Snapper, me, and you guys, and whatever you guys want to talk about, I guess that's what we'll talk about.
More of an off-the-cuff, fun, interesting. Anybody have any questions or want to talk about? It might be interesting if you, yesterday we were talking about that Dragoon, all that weird stuff I found. We could go across that if nobody has any direct answers or questions.
Yeah, go for it. Actually, there are already some stuff in the comment section.
Okay, sweet.
Kind of roll back over here through this. They're talking about reloading, and A American says that he is reloading Plowboy loads while he listens. And we have Garza Blogs and A Americans in here. Classic Guns Today.
Howdy.
And so we got quite a few people in here. And Classic Guns Today says, "Hey, American, who needs 44 Magnum when you've got 40 grains of 3F Holy Black behind 45 caliber 250 grain lead bullet? Not as powerful, but nothing to laugh at."
No, definitely not. That's a stout round. Definitely a stout round.
Depending on the gun, it's about more than you want to handle in a small enough gun.
That is true. A 7.5-inch barrel on a just single action army. That's moving.
Yeah, Gunsmith 4570 said black is good, but so is Unique. He's using 7.5 and a 255 grain Keith bullet just for fun. Yeah, Unique is that's actually a 7.5 grain Unique. That's fairly hot load behind that Keith bullet.
I don't do much smokeless loading just because I don't have very many guns to shoot smokeless through that are old style anyways. All my new style smokeless guns are new style guns.
Yeah, American has said Classic Guns Today asked if he was talking about black powder, if he's talking about 777 substitute. And American said, "I never realized how good some of the black powder alternatives like 777 read. It's 10 to 15% more powerful than regular black powder after shooting some. I believe it."
Yeah, I agree with that. I shoot a little bit of the substitutes. I'm not an expert when it comes to substitutes. I don't know a lot about substitutes. It's just, is substitutes okay for antique guns? Because everything I reload for is old guns. I'm sure at lower amounts it would be fine, but at higher amounts, I don't think so. Yeah, I could be wrong though.
I've been using 16 grains of accurate. I can't remember the name on the number on the bottle. It's actually recommended for like 4570s and big cartridge cases that if you want to shoot smokeless in it, you have to have some kind of filler or something, because they like if you put in a 45 Colt, you can use HP 38. And I have, but 7 grains of HP 38 does not fill up very much of that cartridge. No. And
it's an empty cartridge with a little bit of powder shaking around at the bottom.
So this accurate powder that I'm using right now, I can actually get using 16.5 grains. I'm getting the same ballistics as I would if I was using 8 grains of Unique. So it's fairly hot, but it almost completely fills the cartridge. And it works out pretty good that way. You want that cartridge full as much as you can anyway. But anyway, you were going to talk about the Fluck model, a Dragoon?
Yeah, I still don't know if it's a Fluck Dragoon. So maybe the guys in the audience can help a little bit. Give me just a second to grab it. So my Dragoon, my first model Dragoon that you guys have probably seen a couple times in here or my channel, I dived into the whole Fluck rabbit hole, and it doesn't make any sense. Okay, for one, there's some things about these guns that just don't make sense.
Maybe you better explain what Fluck is first, because I didn't know until you brought it up to me.
It looks like the Fluck Dragoon is the old stampings from the original factory when they were making the Walker. Okay. Mm-hmm. And it's the orientation and where the stamps are on the gun. So, for instance, my first model Dragoon, if you hold a first model Dragoon normally and you're looking at it, or any Colt, at the bottom it'll say Colt's patent right here. But if you turn the gun sideways and you read the script on the top, you should be able to read it without flipping the gun around. Mine is upside down. Mine starts with address at the very front where the cylinder is. And then it says Samuel Colt, New York City. That is how the Walker was done. And all the other first model Dragoons, there's a small handful that are like mine. And I didn't even know mine was different. It was one of those where I was starting to look at pictures and like, why is mine upside down compared to other ones? And on top of that, the serial number placement on the bottom of the gun. See if I can get this so you can see. So if you look, my serial number is 7417, right? 74 on one side and 7 on the other side of the screw. On the normal gun, it's not on either side of the screw, it's below the screw. Now that doesn't seem like a big deal. I didn't think that was a big thing, but every single gun that I found where the serial number is on each side of the screw, the barrel script is upside down, like mine. And what's interesting and what keeps coming up is that the Fluck Dragoons were just the really early replacements for some of the Walkers. And okay, that makes sense, but it doesn't at the same time because mine is a very late first model Dragoon. Mine's in the 7000 series. They were just about to start the second model. Mm-hmm. And they're interscattered between the serial numbers. So I've seen a lot of the very, very first ones were set up like mine. But I've seen in the 2000 serial number, even the low 1000 serial range, where it's the way it should be, where it's normal, it's not upside down, with the script on one side, and the serial number be below the screw. But then randomly, you'll find one in the 4000s that's set up like mine, and then 2 or 3 serial numbers later will be set up the way the other one's set up, and mine's in the 7000s, and mine's set up like the very early or the Fluck Dragoon. And the Fluck Dragoon, basically the guy supposedly found it in, I'm not even sure if the explanation makes sense to me even, that these were just used with the Walker scripts, like the old dies when they made the original Walkers, they wore out, and then that's what the Fluck Dragoons were. They just had the original scripts from the Walkers. Mm-hmm. But that makes no sense because mine's at the very end of the first model Dragoons. And the stamps, the normal stamps, are before it and after it. And like I said, there's also ones like mine scattered throughout the entire serial number range of the first model.
I may have a little bit of an explanation for that. And sure. I think I've talked to you about it. And that might be that a lot of times they were put together, but not necessarily possible. I have nothing to back this up. This is just a theory. That right. Possibly they're put together, they set in storage, and then their serial number stamped as they go out. As far as I know, because the guns are completely all together already and right. Fitted and everything, and then they stamp serial numbers as they go out. So it's very possible that gun could have been a holdover, even from like directly post Whitneyville. It could be a Pearl Street factory gun. Or
why would they use the different size die and the placement of the die being different on the serial number itself?
That's true.
That makes sense to me 100%. It seems more like Colt made these really early, and then they were just throwing random serial numbers at some of these guns and sending them places, mm-hmm. and they're actually out of order. These could be earlier or later. That's the only thing that could make sense to me. And mine being a civilian model has no military markings, but a lot of the other ones I found don't have military markings at all either.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe.
Well, all I can think is also if it was in pieces when they stamped the serial numbers, they could have very easily had like a 4 or 5 days where the machine was not quite lined up and they stamped them all a little high, or it could be any number of things. But I have to agree
The
with you.
sizes of the stamps are different as well. Like if you look at the numbers, like the 7 or whatnot, they're actually one's smaller, one's larger, and the later style, where it should be below, is actually a larger number, and ours are smaller. So they even had to use different stamps. If it wasn't for those inconsistencies, you feel like you could line it up in some way, but nothing makes sense with the order. And when we were looking at the Fluff Dragoon, they said, oh, the random serial number is up to like 8,000. And I remember looking at that going, that doesn't make any sense whatsoever. But now it kind of does, but it at the same time doesn't make sense to why these guns were done that way.
And if you guys want to know why they're called Fluck Dragoons, it's because I believe the 40s, 50s, maybe in the 60s, there was a big-time collector named Fluck who started identifying all these different markings on the first. They're all first model Dragoons, I believe.
I believe so, yes.
And
yes,
he came up with a theory that they are they're stamped on different machinery and that they're
the way he made it sound is they were made using the exact same machinery as the Walker.
Yeah.
And that machinery wore down, the stamping anyways, wore down, and they switched it. So they wanted to designate it two different style of guns. But that theory doesn't make sense to me. In a way it does, unless the only way it makes sense is that they were making serial numbers out of order.
Yes. And you're not the only one that doesn't make sense too, because most people have disregarded it from what I've read. A lot of people, but some people still believe it's kind of a mystery out there on those. Let's go over here to the chat. Hi, Angelica Wood says hello. Hi.
Hello.
And Garza's vlog says hi. I didn't know that. Very interesting. Classic guns today. For 15 years, I thought Remington oil and CPL and cleaning patches and brush were all you needed, and it would frustrate me to no end for years. My safe and finding rust caked in the bore pitting. Well, I'm going to let you in on a little secret. Classic guns today, I still use Remington oil. Just because I can't always get a hold of Ballistol. But
Ballistol is my favorite. By far, my favorite's Ballistol.
And I'll use Ballistol when I have it, but sometimes I'll still use Remington oil. I really haven't had any trouble with it in black powder fouling. I've always heard for years that black powder fouling would mix with Remington oil because it's got petroleum based. It's petroleum based, and that it would gum. But my uncle actually started me before I could barely hold a gun up, and he was muzzle loading in the 80s. And that was all they used was just, he used WD-40 sometimes, which is a water. I
thought people used grease, like wheel grease. Yeah.
And he used, when Remington oil became available, that was all he used, and he taught us to use. So, there's 40 plus years of us using Remington oil and black powder guns, and we haven't had any major issues. But, I've also used Ballistol, and it does work better as far as displacing, and you're not having to come back and seeing any rust whatsoever. A American said, classic guns, I learned the hard way myself about the importance of cleaning right away and good after shooting black powder myself. Yeah. There have been times, I don't know about you, Snapper, but there have been times I've let one go for a week or so, and then you're like, oh, the nightmare, because it's just so hard to get clean again.
Believe it or not, the longest I've ever had a gun go was 2 days. And the only reason is because every gun I have except 2, before I had a couple more, but only 2 of my guns are replicas. And I don't mind with a replica as much, but when you throw a crap ton of money at one of these originals, there's not one of my originals that I won't clean directly when I get back, no matter how tired I am. Just out of pure fear, I clean them religiously.
Yeah. The trouble I had was, the longest I ever let one go was 15 years.
I'm guessing it's the Remington upstairs.
Well, actually, that one, yeah, probably. But I had one go longer than that even, and that was my inline that we bought when I was 10 years old. My brother and I mowed, and we each saved up $50. We're mowing in the summertime. That was in $99 or $2,000, one of the two. And we went into Walmart and we bought a black powder inline muzzleloader.
Nice.
And they would let you do that back then. Didn't need a driver's license, nothing. We literally walked up there. We both put our $50 bill. It was like an $82 gun. And we actually have a video of it up on the channel from a long time ago. But we walked out of there with that muzzleloader, and it was an inline, and we had no clue. I've said before, we didn't get internet good around here. Like, we didn't have a cell phone tower that worked until 2010 in my vicinity, so we didn't have really any internet. All we had was, like, books and stuff. And my uncle, who'd been muzzleloading for years, so, you know, we did all kinds of stupid stuff. We cleaned it with motor oil. We didn't clean it at all. We'd shoot it till the fouling got so bad you couldn't get. Ethan was just a little kid, and I remember him being out there when he was like 6 or 7 with that ramrod up against a tree, just trying to beat that Sabo down, and we couldn't do it. And you know, we didn't even know hot water. I mean, we used water, we didn't use hot water, and then we'd run some motor oil down it. And I gave up on it after a few years, and because I got a cap lock, a side lock muzzleloader. I let Ethan have it, and we went on a hunting trip, and he was probably 8 or 9. He was real little. And I actually had a friend of mine who'd never been deer hunting with me, and Ethan had never shot a deer yet. And I was going to let my friend take the shot. I kind of just guided him up to it. And so we were ground hunting, stalking. And of course we were all by ourselves in the place we were hunting, but there had been other hunters there before with tree stands and stuff. And so I got up on this buck, and I had my friend all set up to take the shot, and I said, "Here, you take the shot." And I heard boom beside me, and it was Ethan over there with his 50 caliber inline muzzleloader that he had tried to build a rear sight for because it didn't have a rear sight. He hit 15 feet high and shot the step out of a deer stand. And I was mad at him, and I took it from him, and he was mad at himself. He threw it behind the couch, and we didn't touch it for 15 years. Till about 2 years ago, we dug it out and cleaned it up, and it still shoots. But
wow, I guess it isn't as bad as they say, then, huh?
Well, not on that particular gun, and I don't know if it's because it was a modern one. I mean, it has some pitting in the bore, but it wasn't the end of the world bad.
Well, I don't think, if you think about people back if you were on a middle of nowhere, for instance, you weren't going to waste that much water if you don't have a lot of water to clean your gun. Mm-hmm. You might wipe it down. And that would explain a lot on the condition of why these guns are the way they are, some of them. But normally, it's very rare to find a gun that has zero pitting, zero anything from back then, because there's no way they would have cleaning them every day. There's just no way.
But the worst I've seen is my uncle. See, the one thing is we live in a fairly dry part. We're right here on Kansas-Oklahoma line, and it's really dry where we're at, just like where you're at. But my uncle had a Thompson Center Hawken that he'd had since the 80s, and he shot Pyrodex out of it. And he'd had that thing for 15 years, and he left it in the basement at a house down southeast Oklahoma for like a week. And he'd been shooting Pyrodex, and in a week it was unusable. It was unrecognizable.
Really? I guess it's all that humidity, huh?
It was the humidity, and the Pyrodex just tends to be way more corrosive really fast.
Interesting.
Whereas black powder, you have a little bit more leeway.
That's very interesting.
Okay, there's Snapper, or there's Duke. I'm gonna go ahead and make Duke a moderator, if you don't mind. Go ahead if you have anything on. What was your first black powder gun, Snapper?
My very first black powder gun was a Pieta 1860 Army brass frame. I actually haven't been shooting as long as a lot of people think black powder. I was never around it. The very first black powder pistol I ever saw, I didn't even know what it was. I was like, how in the world do you stick a cartridge in that? And I remember the whole time just being so confused because they're like, oh, no, you don't do that. You load it. And I'm like, what? This doesn't make any sense. How do you put a cartridge in that? But when I actually saw the full demonstration, I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. I kind of like that. And it was probably 10 years later that I started searching the guns out myself. Nobody in my family shoots old guns. They're really never passed down through my family. Anything really, really expensive in my family always got sold. So I don't really have any like really nice family heirlooms, only a little bit. And none of them are guns, really, I don't think. If they are, they're nothing really old. But it was my own personal love of just the guns themselves. When I started getting into them, I became really, really into the single action armies. Unbelievably into these. Like if I could, anything I could find about them, I would read it. Anything, everything. I wanted to know any and everything about the gun I possibly could know. And it's probably still the most educated gun I'm on. But then it was one of those where I had that 1860 and I fell in love with shooting it. It was great. Then I wanted a 51 Navy, and it just kind of trickled down to where I was buying the replicas. I was just sitting there going, it's not that much at the time to just buy an original.
Yeah.
Compared. I mean, yeah, they're like 4 times more, but 4 times more than $200. $1,000 versus 2, and I can have the real thing that was actually, back then. And I went the original routes, even though they're more difficult, they're more expensive. People usually look at you like you're completely insane when you shoot them. No joke. I've never gone to a range and shot them with people where people didn't look at me like I was like crazy.
Yeah. Do you have that gun there?
Yeah. What?
You have that gun there with you?
The 1860 or what?
Yeah.
No, I got rid of that thing years ago.
Okay. What about so how far along was it when you got your first Remington? Your brass frame Remington?
My first Remington is that nickel-plated one, actually. My very first Remington ever, I only bought it like a year and a half ago. That nickel-plated one, I nickel-plated. And the real Remington, that one's gone. Sorry, guys. But you'll see it on the channel. You will see it on the channel. It went to a really good home for somebody that cared a lot more about it than me. Don't get me wrong. I love it. I absolutely love it. And I would love to get another one maybe one day, but I'm a Colt guy. And it just never felt as important to me as my Colts. And even though it is a very important gun, don't get me wrong, this guy is a huge Remington guy. And I figured it'd be in a much better home with him than with me. So
yeah,
that's kind of the way that one went. And now it's in a really good home, being very well taken care of. And we do shoot it. We've shot it twice together already.
It's behind you, you say, though, still right now?
The Pieta is, the nickel-plated Pieta is. Yeah. The real one's gone.
Okay. Can you get that nickel-plated Pieta out and let's look at it?
Yeah. It's on this side. 1 second, guys.
Snapper does a lot of nickel plating. Duke, I'm out here. I'm trying to figure out how to get you on his mod, but it's kind of hard to do during the show, it looks like. If you got any ideas, Duke, text me and tell me how you do that.
So this is a brass frame Pieta that I found at an antique store in Arizona, Phoenix, Arizona.
That's not brass, that's stainless steel.
That's not darn stainless steel. No.
That's a $700 Captain Ball revolver. What are you talking about?
So I found it's brass framed, and I hate brass framed guns for authenticity purposes, but I had nickel plated bolts and parts before in the automotive world. And I said, you know what? It'd be really fun to nickel plate a whole gun. And the only thing not nickel plated are obviously the wood grips and the little brass trigger guard, because they didn't do that on the originals.
Yeah.
And this one isn't very well anymore. I actually had a really good polish on it, and my father, his health is pretty bad. And he was at my house at the time I was doing this, and he wanted to see me nickel plate it quickly because he wasn't going to be here that long. So I nickel plated it really before it was ready.
Yeah.
The gun still looks amazing, but when you do it yourself and you can see, where all the flaws are, versus if you buy one and you don't really stare at it a lot and you're not the person who worked on it, those flaws usually can be hidden and you don't notice them.
You're your own worst critic, huh?
Yeah. And so, yeah, it came out very nice. I really do want to strip it and re-nickel plate it. But, yeah, everything here was nickel plated at my house with – I have a video on how to do it. I need to redo the video because it seemed to make perfect sense when I was making it, but when I watch it, I kind of feel like I'm all over the place.
Yeah.
So I need to redo it, make it much more easy to understand. You make the liquid, it's very easy.
What did you do with the screws? Did you nickel plate them too?
Yeah. I just took them out, polished them, and then you just dip them in the solution, and you turn this little. You use it. You could use a car battery charger. I have a 12-volt power station thing I use, and you just it's negative and positive go on the anode or the part, and you have it connected to a piece of nickel, and you'll dip it into liquid, and it'll just bubble around the part, and the nickel literally just comes across and sticks and becomes part of the outer surface of the metal. And it's a real fusion, so it's not like it's painted on. You can't scratch it off. I mean, you can because it's thin and it's not. It's thin and it's soft. Nickel's not crazy hard, but it's really part there. It ain't gonna just come off like paint would.
Yeah, that's what I was about to ask. How much holster wear does it take to get that off? Because we all know that original nickel guns usually look pretty bad.
It's about the same as the originals because we're not doing anything crazy. There are different processes you can do today. Instead of the way we nickel plate ours in a solution, that's how they did it, back then. Today, they'll actually stick it in a chamber and they'll atomize everything into a gas, and then they'll attract it to the part. And it's much, 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 much tougher that way.
Yeah. And that makes a lot of sense but the way I look at it is, a lot of the originals do look pretty bad, but at the same time, the bluing is going on a lot of originals too. The only difference is it's not as noticeable when the bluing's gone because it's not as.
Yeah, you don't get a really shiny spot and then a rusty spot like on blue or with bluing. Versus nickel.
Steven Sheets says Wild Snapper looks like a Zorro, lookalike Zorro.
Yeah.
Okay, Classic Guns Today. By the way, I've been watching some of his videos. Some really good stuff over there, guys. Go check out Classic Guns Today. I'd like to get him on sometime this summer on this channel, on this chat this summer. I'm booked out pretty well till June, and then we go away in June for a month. But in July, I got a couple things I need to line out with him and Steven Sheets. But he says, for a long time, I thought water would be the last thing you'd want anywhere near a firearm, even a black powder firearm, but it does work. Wipes everything right off, dry, and ballast all careful. Yeah, water is nature's solvent.
One of the worst smokings I ever got in the Army was because of that exact. So we were at NTC in California, and I was a specialist at the time, and we just came back, and you have to clean everything really clean before you cleared coming from the box, and then you start shipping everything after you clean it. And we had our M4s, and they wanted them cleaned, right? Everybody's spinning all day long with a little toothbrush and scrubbing everything. I was like, what'd be great is I'll just go turn the hot water on in the shower, and I'll go take a shower, and I'll just bring it with me. And I did that, and it was hilarious because I had the cleanest gun, but I had a staff sergeant find out that I brought it into the shower, and I still don't understand it to this day, maybe because I had a little bit of an attitude when I said, how does aluminum rust? The only thing on the gun that can rust is the barrel, and it's chrome lined. But as long as you dry it off, and I used really hot water, so it instantly came off, and then I oiled it. It's not going to hurt it in any way, shape, or form. But let's just say I was stronger that day, the next day anyways.
Nettie says, hi, y'all. Hi, Nettie. Gunsmith 4570 says also really dry climate in some places that can really save a lot of guns. That is true. Steven Sheets wants to know if we're doing anything after the chat. Steven, besides going to bed, not a lot. Nettie's battery's going dead, and Classic Guns Today said, hey, thanks. Well, you're welcome. I really do enjoy a lot of stuff over there. You have one of my favorite guns. One of my very first revolvers was a 44 Magnum Blackhawk with that big long barrel, just like you had. Mine was stainless steel, and that was what I broke into handgun shooting on. After that, everything was little and easy. Have you shot 44 Magnum much, Snapper?
44 Magnum? Actually, no. I've only shot it maybe twice ever.
We'll have to get together and you can shoot Ethan's Model 29.
I've always wanted to shoot a Smith & Wesson 500. I've always wanted to shoot one. I've never shot one before.
I'm not a Smith & Wesson fanboy, but
I can tell. Well, me neither. But yeah, the 500 is interesting.
I would sure enjoy doing that. It's too big to be useful for me. It's useful to somebody somewhere. I'll never say a gun's not practical, especially if you got that in a snub-nosed gun. It would be useful for a
Never
lot
know
of
when
things.
you're gonna run into a T-Rex somewhere.
Well, or even a big bear or something. But there comes a point where a rifle would do you, or a shotgun even would do you just as good. Not as portable. I get that. So yeah, it's a practical gun, but it's for me. There's not much.
It's kind of like a walker.
Yeah, that's true. I
A
bet
less
they weigh
powerful
about
walker,
the
but
same.
size-wise, it's kind of
It would be fun to have one.
Yeah.
Man, I'm sure Ethan will get one pretty soon if I
I'm
know
surprised he
him.
doesn't have one, being so into Smith & Wesson.
Well, you can either buy at this point you can nearly buy every original Smith & Wesson before the Model 3, or you could buy one of those. That's the price difference.
That is
So
true.
I'm sure that he goes with the historical stuff just because it's actually quite a bit cheaper. Gunsmith 4570 said never did electroplate. Did an 1862 pocket police with a electroless. Oh, it keeps moving. Electroless nickel like Colt used.
Yeah.
Made it a really bright nickel finish. Electroless nickel, huh?
Electroless. It's I think it's I'm not too. I know what it is, but I'm not too savvy on how it does its thing. I think it's you soak it and it gets on there. I'm not 100. He could probably come out and say that. I learned it with the electricity.
Yeah, and Garza says he would really need to thoroughly clean his gun because he lives in Southeast Texas. It's really humid down here.
I used to live in Southeast Texas, Beaumont. Matter of fact, what's funny, if you watch my video on my single action army, I used to live there as a kid and didn't even know my gun was there the whole time. And I ended up buying it while I was living here. So there was a time where my gun was probably just 2 or 3 miles from where I was. I even lived in this little town called Jasper. Don't ever go there. It's a messed up town.
Not too long ago, well, I say not too long ago, time flies. Probably 3 months ago, you sent me a picture of a Colt in a bag.
Yeah,
What is the story on said Colt in the bag?
All right, Colt in the bag is the 7.5-inch single action army with the ivory grips.
You want to grab that?
Yeah, I'll grab it.
Now, when I first saw this guy, Snapper's pretty good gunsmith because when I first saw this was a few parts in a Ziploc bag.
Pretty much. So the barrel is for a newer Colt, a little bit newer. It's still first-gen barrel. The frame is an 1899. The backstrap and trigger guard, I got to look up what years those were again. The entire gun is mismatched. It's one of those guns where I think somebody had a bunch of parts and he was trying to build a single action army from scratch and he just never finished it. And it plopped into my seat and I had it shooting like 5 days later, fitting everything, putting it together. It's a great little gun. I got a lot of work to do it because I have the normal, like the V style notch on the back, but I have the fat style front sight post. I need to trim that down. There's a lot I want to do with it, get the numbers squared away, trying to figure out, because there's some interesting stuff that I don't want to talk about this gun that have me a little concerned.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Okay, we won't talk about then. Is it a black?
We won't talk about those though.
Are we looking at a 396 frame?
It is a 1899, so it has the little button.
Okay, yeah. I actually don't mind that. I really do like that. I mean, for historical reasons, I like the other one better for historical, but for practical purposes,
the screw on the front.
Yeah.
I prefer the screw. I couldn't tell you why. I think it's just because I like the way the gun looks with the screw versus. I don't know, but I don't mind the little push button release. It's not that bad. It's actually kind of nice. Oh, and you're gonna think I sound retarded when I say this, but I put this barrel on using Colt's preferred method, actually in their book on. So when you screw a barrel onto a frame, it screws on. Now, what happens normally is the barrel is designed to stop before you can get vertical. So you have to then tighten it a little bit more, or you fit the frame by taking a little bit off the frame so it actually sinks lower. When I put this barrel on, it would tighten but be past the vertical. So it's too far past. And you have two options when that happens. Take a crap ton of metal off the front of this, or you can get in on a lathe and cut this back. But when I was reading through the Colt's manual, the actual Colt manual on how to work on a single action army, I found a technique that I wanted to try, and it works really well. You put a piece of string in it. I just put a piece of string down the threads, just sitting down it, and then I'd screw the barrel on. And that is Colt's actual, in their book, way to do it from the 1800s, 1890s. I think the book came out in the 1920s-ish. And it works great. The barrel's tight. I mean, it is tight. There's no wobbling. There's nothing. And there's a tiny, I never trimmed it all the way off because it's kind of a good conversation starter, but I have a tiny bit of the string. You can still see.
You still have a piece of string there?
Yeah, I left it on. I didn't trim it all the way off just because, somebody says, nah, you didn't do that yet. You can see the string.
I've actually noticed that.
It works.
I've noticed that on the single action armies I get from Cimarrons, not all you birdies, because we have a couple cattlemen's that aren't like this, but the ones I've gotten from Cimarron, all of them are just a little bit tightened over to the sight, just a little bit to the left. And it might just be the ones I have too. I got two of them that are like that, but it would be easier because you could just tighten the barrel if they were a little to the right. But since they're a little to the left, there's no way to, unless you do like you said, take the barrel clear off and either that or you just.
I've seen where people have actually, taken a file to the top of the gun, the actual frame, and made it shorter to get a whole nother rotation. But
that's scary.
Yeah, too much, man.
Let's go over here. It says, we say, Americans wanting to order a holster from Duke. I'll get you in contact with him if he's not out there, American. I can get you in contact with him. Classic Guns Today said that he had his long barrel Super Blackhawk 44 mag. He handed it to his wife. Barrel flipped back, pointing straight up. She frantically passed it back to me and doesn't want it anywhere near her. I'll tell you, that gun is fairly similar to shooting a rifle. And if any of you know what old hedge fence posts are like, on the old wooden fences that you see around, even barbed wire fences, they got the old hedge posts in them around here. Most of those posts are 100 years old. And when you're shooting a 44 Magnum out of that, 10.5-inch barrel, you can bust those old hard posts up. I mean, I was doing that one day. Caleb, if you guys watch the channel, Caleb over there. He was pretty young. This was, 12 years ago or so. I was shooting these old hedge posts, just smashing the tops of them. We were tearing the fence out. And I slipped in I had been shooting these 44 Magnums, and I slipped in a 44 Special. And I shot that post with that 44 Special, and it was just rejection. It didn't even make a dent. That 44 Special bullet came right back, hit Caleb right in the knee. Tore his pants. With blood coming out of his knee, he fell down on the ground, and I thought, well, I have officially shot somebody. But in reality, it just tore the skin, and I realized, not good to shoot them really hard objects with 44 Special. It just ain't doing it.
What somebody told me is the greatest to shoot, and it makes sense because you see Hickok 45 videos. He's always shooting at those bowling pins. Apparently, bowling pins are a lot of fun to shoot because you could shoot them a bajillion times and you can't hardly tell you shot it. Yeah,
I've heard that. We finally got into AR-500 steel. A lot of the targets you see out on our range aren't AR-500, so we only shoot them with like the 3 centers and the stuff on the rail. We only shoot those with soft lead, or if it's like 45 Colt, it's black powder loads. Because even with 44 Magnum, even with a lead cast bullet, you can really tear them things up fast. We got Charlie Basinger over here. He said, "Hello, Snapper. This is Charlie, the Confederate from the Vegas Gun Show. Just giving you a shout out."
Oh, hey. How are you doing, brother?
Man, I would love to go to that gun show.
You need to go to that gun show. It was a really good gun show.
I think we will next year.
Not only was it an amazing gun show, there was a lot of really amazing people like Charlie there. Their guys were out there representing and it's through these live streams you guys heard that I'm related to John Bell Hood, and their commanding officer they fall under for their Confederate Union was John Bell Hood. That's kind of why I stopped. I was like, hey, that's my great grandpa. So that was kind of fun.
Hey
really
guys, there's a song about that on the internet if you want to go look at it.
Yes, a matter of fact, I think it's called the
Ballad of Reverend
Snapper.
It's on the 1860
That's actually my
Army
favorite
video.
song of all time. Matter of fact, Charlie, he heard that song I showed it to him when I was down there. You had your 1860 video just come out, and when I was down there, I was like, it's out there now, so I can at least show people. He recorded it. He liked it a lot.
Yep. Speaking of the 1860 Army video, if you look over my hat, you can see right there is the Colt root revolver in the box. And that is Haven and Belden, that thick book right there. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. I have 8 new books that just came in, and we are ready to roll on with the history of handguns of Colt. And so look for the 1861 Navy to be coming out in the next, hopefully, couple weeks. Everything works out.
That's going to be fun.
Shameless plug for my own stuff. Gunsmith 4570 said that the Electroless process is a heated chemical process in a nickel-saturated solution. The heat takes the place of the electricity.
Interesting. I have to look that up. Is it more durable?
He's saying that's the original Colt style, so I would imagine it may not. I mean, it probably is what you see mostly.
I actually learned the electric process from Colt's single action Army.
Well, I wonder.
It might be their later style or earlier.
Yeah,
I don't know.
It's probably.
It might be earlier, maybe.
Well, you would think that electricity. I mean, they had batteries and stuff, but you would think that the electric style, because they changed their bluing finish in about 1912. I imagine they changed their nickel finish at about that same time.
Oh yeah.
So anything's possible there.
Interesting. Thank you. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
I think he said earlier that was Colt's style. But anyway, American
it kind
said
of makes sense. It might be easier to do with chemical than before electricity.
Yeah. American said, I loved my Smith & Wesson 500 when I was younger, and now I'm 50 and not really fun anymore. Well, I would love it, but I mean, I would definitely shoot it. I would own one if I could afford it, but there's just so many other things on the list ahead of it. Like, I'm really considering this summer looking into getting myself a Colt made from Colt. Yeah, I know it's CZ Colt now, but I think CZ Colt is better than 2010 Colt.
Yeah, I'm going to agree. CZ makes good guns, so as long as they keep their standard, it should stay.
And they're not marking the guns with their own names from what I've seen. They're doing a really good job of putting out because, I mean, when was the last time Colt made a revolver? 98 or something? And now we have all
they still make the single action Army, but it's custom shop and crazy expensive.
But it's not now. Since CZ took over, they've put it back on their website, on their catalog, and it's gone from $3,000 to $1,700 because it's not a custom made gun anymore. You can actually order one. And so, yeah, CZ's doing good stuff over there, I think.
A matter of fact, I was on Gunbroker and I started seeing a lot of brand new single action Armies starting to show up on that. So, and they were much cheaper than they normally go for. They were in the $1,700 range, I believe. I mean, so that's great.
Up until like last year, if you wanted a Colt 3rd generation gun, you had to go through custom shop, and it was like $3,000 just for if you wanted it nickel plated or whatever, But now you're talking $1,700, and they have a few on hand. You might, of course, right now they might be sold out, but I
really want to get a 3rd gen of this with the black powder frame. So then I have the original on so you can at least kind of see what it looked like new. I know the new bluing or the new color case hardening isn't the same. They get much more colors out of it now because back then they weren't for the colors. They were doing it for a reason. But it'll be cool to have a new one.
I haven't made up my mind though, because I might want a 2nd gen. and I know they're a little more expensive, a 2nd gen single action Army, and then maybe order their new Anaconda, just so I have something to go against Ethan's Model 29 as a Colt guy.
Or
so I have a 44
you can
Magnum.
get a 1st gen and do it right.
Yeah, you know.
I promise you'll be happier. I mean, I guarantee they're the same gun, right? But the only difference is
the thing is, Caleb's gonna have one of those like real soon.
Oh, I get you. Yeah, once something's sticking around, it doesn't feel so much special when you can pick it up at any minute.
Yeah. We've kind of agreed as brothers that we used to all buy one gun and then we would all buy it, you know, get excited about it. We've all agreed that since we've started the channel, if somebody buys a gun, we're going to buy something a little different just so we can keep it going.
Yeah, in that case, I would say, yeah, go with the 2nd gen.
Yeah, so that way we would have one of all 3 eventually. But let's go back over here. A American, he said, okay, we got that 500. Gunsmith 4570 said he wondered if Teflon tape would work for string when aligning the barrel.
I'm sure it would. I'm sure it would. I just wanted to try it because I even went out and got the hemp string that it called for and did it. Just because I wanted to try the old school way. But I'm sure it would, definitely. Now, as an engineer, I can tell you that Teflon tape, we always use it to seal stuff, but Teflon tape is not a sealant. It's actually a lubricant, believe it or not. It was designed to be a lubricant, and it doesn't work as well as some people think. I've always used it myself as a way to seal up a pipe, but it actually isn't designed for that at all. It's actually a lubricant. It's weird, but yeah.
Yeah, Classic Guns Today wants to know, have you been to Cimarron store over in Fredericksburg? Only online. I've never been to Fredericksburg. Have you, Snapper?
When I lived in Texas, Fredericksburg was not far from me. I used to drive my motorcycle past the shop, going to college, and I never went in there. I wasn't into the old guns at that time.
Yeah.
I wish I was.
If I'm ever down in the vicinity, I definitely will, but I haven't been there yet. A American said he used Casewell electrodes. Nickel plating works great and very stiff but expensive. Great, very great stuff, but expensive. Can't afford to do it again. Caswell electrodes, huh? That's interesting. Gotcha.
We'll look into that.
He said tough, not stuff, big thumbs. Gotcha. Don't worry, I did the same thing. I usually have to take my YouTube video downs and redo the title about a day or two afterwards when somebody will point out, hey, that's misspelled.
I use the auto spell, or like what auto types for you, and I'm telling you, it's getting worse. There's been some really stupid stuff it changes too. There's some really kind of funny sometimes, but
yeah.
It's getting worse.
I have it on my phone, but my PC here doesn't have that. So, I mean, it probably would if I put it on there, but I'm not smart enough to figure that out. Charlie Bassinger said, I'm doing very well. He's your guy you met. I thought that gun show was excellent also. Yep. I know that, not to lay any spoilers out, but a bunch of us gun channels that I've talked to thus far are going to try to at least attend that next year. So that
it's going to be amazing. Hopefully that'll be like the big YouTube gun people's Hollapalooza kind of thing.
Yeah. Classic Guns Today said, Reverend Snapper, did you just say you are related to John Bell Hood?
Yes, I am. 100%.
Actually,
I am from Texas. Now, John Bell Hood was kind of all over the place. He ended up passing away in Louisiana. But he had a daughter. I have to look at it. I'm not very good with my family history. I know it, but I'm related to one of his daughters. And I actually ended up with a lot of his stuff. My father and I still have a little bit of his stuff, Civil War stuff, but it's kind of we don't bring it out very much.
Yeah, little things. Understandable. Well, you told me that clear back, I think, like last summer, because I was actually working on that 1860 Army video last August, believe it or not. And I actually sat down. He called me one day, and we were talking to the tractor, and he started telling me all this. And I sat down after I hung up. I wrote that song, like that in the tractor, because I knew about a lot of the historical events, but then it was just like it all clicked for me because we were talking about 1860 Armies and Colts, and then he told me the story. And I think it took me about 5 minutes to write that song. I recorded it so I would remember it, and then
that's actually one of my most favorite songs. It's going to be in the Griswold and Gunnison video soon.
Yeah, I'm going to try to make a music video out of it. I just haven't done it yet.
I hope so.
Classic. Let's see. Giant Purple People Eater 97. Hi, I haven't seen you in here for a while. He said, "Sup, Snapper Garrett. Camaro's done, and yeah, man, it's 408, a ground pounder with a 90 millimeter turbo. Also, I want to give an insert from my Confederate family members."
Yeah.
We're gonna have to start a whole nother channel just so Snapper can talk about cars.
Yeah.
He can go if you let him go. We're gonna keep him reined in.
Keep him reined in.
but if we turn him loose one day, he'll go.
My past of everything I've ever done financial wise and work wise has always been high performance vehicles, other than the military.
If you guys want, one of these days we'll sit down and schedule out a live chat where it's just cars and motorcycles, because Snapper and I can't do the cars. I can do some on the motorcycles, but we could have a big conversation about that.
I'll do a video one day on my Corvette. You guys might like it a lot.
Okay, Gunsmith 4570 said the Electroless is the I believe he's saying 19. He says 50 through 70s nickel. Think Series 70s and Pythons. Okay, that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, thank you. I'm guessing that would probably be the Electroless would be probably a more durable electric set. I'm curious. I actually need to try it because that would be kind of nice to know.
Snapper, are you familiar with Giant Purple People Eater 97?
A little bit. I've seen him a couple times.
Okay, we might be stumbling on something here where I'm not going to get too detailed into that you two might have in common, but he's talking about, I believe, his Confederates family members. Williamson, John H., 2nd Lieutenant Williamson, resided in Horry District and enlisted in Blatton's Crossroads on 1162. He mustered out as first sergeant and has elected 3rd lieutenant in 7.5 of 63. Sorry there. Yeah, no, it's Williamson, so there's nothing to worry about there. I just read it wrong.
Hold on one second. He went in as a lieutenant and he got out as a first sergeant. I'm confused. I must have heard that wrong. He
mustered in as a first sergeant and was elected 3rd lieutenant. He mustered in.
Oh, wow. So going from an enlisted man to an officer, that's big. Well, even just becoming a first sergeant, that's big. Like, that's big time. That's squared away.
Mustering in as a first sergeant, that's even better.
That's even better. That's that big man energy right there.
Yeah, Gunsmith 4570 said Caswell also makes Electroless nickel solutions.
Nice.
And Giant Purple People Eater 97 Williamson, John Corporal Williamson, listed 31564 in Horry District. He mustered in as a private and was promoted to corporal. He was present and accounted for hospital. He was present and accounted for until hospitalized at Petersburg Cavalry.
Interesting. Very interesting. I spent most of my Army career as a corporal. So that I was really hard at getting a sergeant. I was really bad at it. I had too big of a mouth.
It's not corporal. What do they call it now? It's not. Is it specialist?
Well, you have specialists. There's still corporal in the combat corps. Like infantry, we still have corporal. I think we still have corporal as well if they're deployed. But there's still corporal in the infantry. But there's specialists, which means you're not a NCO. I mean, you're not over anybody and you're an E4. And then you're a corporal, means you get paid the same, but you have to do more work.
Yeah.
It's like being a sergeant, but being paid as a E4.
I'm kind of sad here. I'm sitting here surrounded with Milsip World War I stuff, and we don't even get to talk about it.
I was so really looking forward to it. We're going to have to do it soon. We're going to have to do it soon.
We're going to try for next week, I think, next Saturday night, if that works for you. And we got to make sure this works. Yeah. We've never tried to go international before.
Yeah. I think that's the biggest part is, he's on the complete other side of the world.
Yeah. It was actually going to be Sunday afternoon for him.
If you guys don't know who Trooper Cody is, his name's Steve. His horse is named Trooper Cody.
Yeah.
His channel is one of those channels where there's so many good things of like nuggets of information you find. It's one of my favorite YouTube channels.
Oh yeah, and we were going to talk Anzacs and Light Horse, and we still will. But yeah, it's just he has the most amazing dry sense of humor you've ever seen. His video about the Visigoths is definitely one of my all-time favorites. But we'll talk to him next week. But man, I was all geared up. I had to.
Yeah, me too. I've been looking for this one for a while.
Turkish Mauser.
Nice.
I had the.
You got a smelly? You got a smelly? SMLE? Yeah.
Yep, had the SMLE ready to go. Had the Webley 6 ready to go.
I need to get myself a Webley.
Had the Dryza ready to go.
See, everybody thinks I got a cool gun collection. You guys have a freaking museum.
Had the P08 ready to go. Had the not K98, but the German 98 Mauser ready to go. I think. Which one is this? Yeah, this is the German gun. 1916. And then, last but not least, I had the old broom handle ready to go.
You know, I almost bought one of those, and I ended up meeting a good friend of mine here in Vegas, and he ended up buying it because I bought that shotgun and back there, and it was one of those where I was kind of sneaking around, a little money here and there, and then he walks out with that. He's like, I'll sell it to you for $600. And I mean, I was so mad. I was like, thanks. You tell me after I buy something. And the guy that bought it ended up being one of my best friends here. And I've been trying to find a way to get it off of him because it was the most accurate pistol I've ever shot in my life. Mm-hmm. Great gun.
Classic Guns Today said, hey, I like World War I stuff. I thoroughly enjoyed The Yanks Are Coming by H.W. Crocker a while back. Love to get a U.S. 1917 infield at some point. Visited Sergeant York's home last summer. Yeah, that's a really good story, and he did use the 1917 infield. Yes. We have two of them here, and we have a really good film that nobody saw, a really good video nobody saw last winter.
I saw that one. You're the one on York?
Yeah, and we talked about Sergeant York, and Ethan actually has a 1917 that is marked, inspected by Elmer Keith. Post-war.
Yeah, that's crazy, huh?
And it's all in that video if you want to go back and check that out. But yeah, my actual hunting rifle is a Sporterized 1917 that was done probably in the 30s, and it was very high quality when it was done, so it worked out really, really well. And if you guys want to see more World War I stuff on the channel, we have, of course, we don't have an Arsenal style collection of World War I guns, but we have a lot of the stuff. We just don't know if people want to see that on this channel. So, if you guys want to see that, we'll definitely get some of it out in the upcoming months.
I don't know if you guys have ever seen, there's a documentary I watched where they did they went out and did my English. They did a dig trying to find the exact location where Sergeant York was during that movement. And they found it because they found 45 cartridges in the area where only he would have been.
Yep.
So that was kind of cool. That was
found
really
45 good. Cartridges and 1917 infield stripper clips. Which really turned the world on its head because up to that point, everybody thought that he used a 1903 Springfield. Ethan was convinced that he used an SMLE because in the book, York's War, which it's not there, it's over at the studio. There's a book out there called York's War that is actually co-authored by him. And it is part of it's his diary where he talks about how he was just in love with the 1903 Springfield. And when he got to France, they gave him the British gun. And so for years, people were thinking he was using SMLE. Well, he considered the 1917 a British gun because it had the clock on close bolt like the night. But it was actually where he was completely surrounded by 30-06 style stripper clips because, of course, they don't have rims. They're belted, so they have a different style. And, yeah, there's a lot of records that he had the 1917, which 1917.
That dude was a man among men. That dude was amazing. I love watching some of his old stuff. He seems like that, like basically a pastor, a fighting pastor.
That's one of the cool guy. The Gary Cooper movie was one of the very first movies I ever watched as a kid.
Yeah, and that's a good movie still to this day.
It's they don't make them like that anymore. It's especially if you're a country boy who's been through that whole land grab situation kind of thing that he's been through. and you really feel that movie. It's a good show. We have let's see. Garza said, "Fun fact: Winston Churchill favored the Mauser broom handle." Yeah, I've heard that. I got it.
I love that thing.
If we could find more ammo for it, we would shoot it. But 30 Mauser is kind of difficult to find nowadays. But it's a beautifully hand. And for a guy like me who doesn't have to have semi-auto everything, I mean, it's semi-auto, but doesn't have to have box-fed magazine, everything. This whole stripper clip idea, I really actually like it. Just, I mean, as a guy who can literally carry a single-action army and not feel bad about it, I would figure out a way to pack this thing. I really would.
I'm sure. I've always wanted to shoot one with the stock on it.
Yeah.
Because I'm telling you, that was the most accurate pistol. I don't know if it's just the one we had. It had everything just lined up perfectly, but it was shooting like shooting a rifle at 50 yards. It was crazy accurate.
I think this is the most accurate pistol we've had around us. Ethan continuously. There's actually a video of it. I need to put it out someday. He took this thing out to a 10-inch plate at 100 yards, and out of the entire magazine, did not miss that 10-inch plate at 100 yards with one hand.
Yeah, there's those Yemen guns.
They are really, really good. Of course, he's a good shot, too.
Yeah, he seems to be a pretty good shot.
Yeah, Classic Guns Today said this is called the Sergeant York Modern Investigation. Yeah, it's very, very interesting. And I encourage you guys, if you're into that, look for that book called York's War. It is really, really good stuff. Getting back into World War I. See, I watched that movie early on in life, so I always pictured up until I was probably 18, 19 years old that the Americans did everything in that war. And then I sat
right.
and realized
we were talking about that earlier. We were only there for, a little bit.
6 months on the ground, I think, officially. A few of us were there before that. But
every single movie I ever saw as a young kid, I thought the Americans showed up and we won the war overnight kind of thing. And, we kind of did, but it always makes it sound like we did everything, and a lot of major stuff happened before we were there.
Yeah, I mean, we did come in and help break the stalemate because, Germany was already having a hard time, and then here come a million Americans over the horizon. It's not going to be a good day.
I've always wanted to go to France and, go to all those old battlegrounds.
Well, you go to France. You go to France, you can cover about 4 wars in one day.
Yeah, that is true.
Oh, my. He said, Classic Guns Today, said, I think my favorite Sergeant York scene in that movie is the rifle range scene. Yep.
Yeah, mine too.
And you ain't wearing no coonskin cap. Exhale 2/3 and squeeze the I think I know about sighting, Sergeant. I do love that. Oh, my goodness. We have Garza said, I think he was the 17th Lancers at the Battle of Omdurman, however you pronounce that. I believe you're talking older wars or something like that. Yeah, he's talking about Winston Churchill. Classic Guns Today. Remember that broom handle gun in Clint Eastwood Western Joe Kidd? The dialogue surrounding it were as great as the scenes him spraying it. Yeah, Joe Kidd's all right. I like that one. It's probably the movie I think that probably inspired Red Dead Redemption 1 more than any other movie I have seen. Have you ever seen Joe Kidd?
No,
go watch it, and you will see Red Dead Redemption. Well, not Red Dead Revolver.
You said it's Joe Kidd?
Joe Kidd.
Okay. I'll have to watch that. I always like finding movies that I haven't seen before.
JOEKIDD2D. It's Clint Eastwood. He's a real anti-hero in that one, and Robert Duvall is the bad guy. So, if you picture guys.
He was a lot of bad guys back then, wasn't he?
Yeah, he really was. He didn't have much.
He's always a good guy in the newer movies.
Well, Godfather, was he a good guy or a bad guy in The Godfather? Yeah. He was a peacekeeper, I guess. Well, we're just now hitting up onto an hour. If you guys want to go, we still got 11 people in here. If you guys want to go a little longer, we can.
Sure. This is one of my favorite things to do. I'm so upset we couldn't get Cody on, though, man.
Yes.
I was hitting that hard.
You just did it, too. You said Cody. I did the same thing, too. Steve.
I actually texted him the other day, and I was like, I expect to see Cody in this live stream as well.
That would be great. I hope we can work it out where he can get Cody in there. That horse is the calmest horse I've ever seen in my life.
You know, he is. And not only is he the calmest, he's probably the best trained and ornery horse. Like, one of those where he's really well trained, but he's just got that little.
He's got
makes him a great horse.
Little attitude. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm actually jealous. That horse is amazing. I'd love to own a horse just like him. He'd be the best horse ever. But that's what you can tell by how he is because of Cody. Like, Cody's a really good horse because he takes really good care of that horse.
Yep. Giant Purple People Eater is getting excited about Confederates and Romans. Well, tune in and go over there and check out Trooper Cody. I mean, he's changed the channel name several times. I think it's War Horses with Trooper Cody right now, or is it Trooper Cody's Australian light horse right now?
Light horse something.
Yeah. But he has everything history-wise on mounted horse history, everything from Romans. He talks about the Goths and the Huns, and he has just huge, and he can tell a story so well. And it's a history story, and he has so much history in his head. It's insane.
My favorite video of his, you should look up the one where the horses went against tanks and the horses won. Cavalry against tanks and the cavalry won. That was my favorite story of all of them. It was World War II. But unfortunately, it didn't end well for the horses.
Did
not end, even the people, the cavalry, it didn't end well for them either. They ended up hitting the tan death march.
There is a song out there by Corb Lund called Horse Soldier, Horse Soldier. I don't know if you've ever heard it, but it is one of the best. I mean, I'm tempted to record it myself, but it is just so good. But it's already out there. He starts out where he's a hussar, and then he's a Hun, and he's horse soldier. He starts out way back in the Crusades, talks about how that he's the guy he's the knight riding the Percheron, and he's also the Saracens rider. And he goes all the way from there. He goes into, he knew his days were numbered, went over the trenches lumbered, the modern machination still yet. No match for rapid fire or the steel birds of the sky. To the final rear guard action, I retreat. And then it acts like the song is over. And then it comes back on and he says, but today I ride with special forces on the wily Afghan horses. And you're like, oh, yes, this is good stuff. Yeah. He talks about the last verse is about them taking Afghanistan on horseback with the I'm sure you know all about that more than I do.
I don't know much I know what you're talking about. I don't know how much of that is actually true, though.
No, don't say that.
I don't want to ruin your hopes and dreams. But
don't ruin my hopes and dreams.
Just like there's video of a couple of me and my friends riding motorcycles around, but that doesn't mean we got to ride motorcycles a lot.
Yep.
Just because we stole it for a couple of minutes doesn't mean,
Yeah. He's talking about the Romans. Yeah, we get into that, especially when Ethan gets back in. Ethan is a huge Roman history buff. And when Ethan comes back, we'll talk a lot more about that. Matter of fact, we literally were going to start out this channel. We had two plans in mind. We were going to be a military surplus channel or an ancient sword channel. And it just turned out that we did what we knew best, which was mostly Old West guns. And
eventually you'll be a small little museum in Kansas.
Yeah. Classic Ons today said most people don't realize Americans and British helped the White Army of Russia fight the Bolshevik communists at the end of World War I. Yeah, they did, and that's where we get. It's amazing that we went over there with actual Mosin Nagants that were American-made Mosin Nagants and fought against the Russians with Mosin Nagants. So that's a little interesting.
At the end of World War II, that got really sketchy because they were holding up our POWs, and they were worried we weren't going to get them back.
Yeah, we're not going to go any further into the future than that, though, Snapper.
I won't. Everything after that's kind of boring. It's not fun. It's just kind of
it's just
depressing after that.
Yeah. Giant Purple People Eater said, yes, my favorite song, that, and I want to be in the cavalry. I want to be in the cavalry is good, but I agree with you. Reprise is probably the best Corb Lund song out there.
You have to that thing you made today for the new intro for when Trooper Cody comes back on with Steve. Yeah, you got to make sure you play that. You guys are gonna love it. It was good. It was really good.
We'll play it when he comes back. But Have you never listened to much Corb Lund, have you, Snapper?
Not much, not much.
If you
You
like
got to
Coulter,
realize I'm a normal. Huh?
if you like Coulter
What?
Wall, you like Coulter Wall?
I'd have to hear the music. I'm not huge
Oh,
on
you
names.
know, Johnny Boy's Bones. I had his song in my.
Oh yes,
51
yes,
Days.
yes, 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 yes.
But
yes.
Corb Lund is a lot like that as far as they're both Canadians and they do Western Canadian stuff. But he has a song called "I Want to Be in the Cavalry" where he talks about his Army Remington and is just a kid who's so excited to join the cavalry, and he goes off.
That sounds familiar. I'm pretty sure I've heard that song.
I want to
Just
be
the
in the
lyrics are telling me
cavalry,
something.
send me off to war. Yeah, but he also has a song called "Reprise" that is the same song, same tune, but the guy's older. And he's talking about after that song, the first 2 weeks on the Bloody Creek, his brother lost his arm. Was it 60 days till all they prayed was to get him home unharmed? And he talks about how we didn't even get to fight. It was disease that took everybody. And the last verse is when you're finally forced to eat your horse.
No,
it's actually really good though. It's a more truthful version of that.
you know, when I was, a lot of the Trooper Cody's videos on his channel, unfortunately, it always ends with them eating their horses in really, really dire situations.
Well,
And, I think that would be so hard to do because you'd get attached to your horse.
but you are probably more attached to you.
That is
I mean, I don't know.
Once you get to a certain hunger, you're not you when you're hungry.
Yeah. Hey, American said he had a Nazi Luger. I mean, he had an N Luger. I didn't say that.
No, the end.
Boy, that even sounds worse.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it?
From 3 feet away with just didn't fit my hand. My granddad couldn't miss with it. Yeah, this one's original, all matching. Caleb shelled out money
a
for
lot
that.
of the original World War II that belonged to that party.
Mm-hmm.
I always thought it would be weird to collect those guns because if something ever happened, like you were in a shooting and you had it as your normal carry gun, you're screwed. You're screwed.
You're out of luck.
You're out. You're done. You're done. They're gonna You might as well just get yourself the death sentence because that's the best you're gonna hope for.
Lost Coyote asks, can I re-upload the Coulter Wall video as a separate video? No, I cannot because it is gone. I had that on my first of my 51 Navy video, and
I missed that, by the way. That's your best intro on that 51 Navy video.
All the footage is gone because I didn't ever intend to take it down. And actually, Coulter Wall himself, his company, shared. Of course, when we weren't monetized at all, it was no big deal. I had a copyright claim on it. But whenever we got monetized, he actually shared monetization with us for a long time. Then I believe his company, because it was pretty small then, for about 4 months, he shared monetization. We got money, he got money, everybody was happy. And then his company changed, and the new company came in and gave us a country restriction and a copyright strike. And so I had to take the first part of it off. And unfortunately, at that point, I didn't have the footage anymore. And it's obviously not going to be easy to use Coulter Wall stuff from now on. So, and I know it's not him. He switched companies for a while there, and the new company got really cracked down on because everybody and their dog had Red Dead Redemption videos out with Coulter Wall music in the background, and you don't find them like you used to. But yeah, I would love to. That's why I was going to put one of his songs in the 1860 Army video, but I wrote some of my own. I have some songs that we've written and some that are by other people coming up in the 1861 Navy video, but I don't think they'll cause any issues.
I don't know if I'm wrong, but I would always think that if a lot of my stuff was out there and I was making a little money off of it, would be better than no money at all by just killing those videos. I mean, personally.
Yeah. Oh no, I still
you're
have
not doing it. You're getting free money from them just using the music you made. Right?
I still have videos with copyright claims on them out there, but you got to watch it because when they start giving you red marks and stuff, you got to watch out because it can go fast. It can go really fast. Living History Comes Alive. He lost his channel in a day. And
I heard about it.
He was at 5,000 subscribers and went back to 0. And I was like, man, that's bad. But yeah, if it's not like the one we had a couple Disney ones, and Disney is
I
a
heard
nightmare.
Disney's the worst. Yeah.
Yeah, I had a Davy Crockett in one of my history of handguns Colt, and man, they cracked that down in 4 countries it wouldn't play.
Yeah, that's crazy, man.
What do you got going on? Let's see that. Yeah, what you got there?
Oh, the Walker. I was thinking about showing that off.
There you go.
Since Garrett's the reason I got it.
I've seen that before somewhere.
Somebody. So I'll make a video on it. What I've done. I stripped the bluing off the cylinder, polished it a little bit. What else did I do? So that the trigger guard was really thick and fat, and I matched it to my Dragoon so it'd be the right size and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And the grip, when you had it, you'll notice that the metal, even the video I have when I first got it, the metal sticking way up. And when you'd hold on to the gun, it actually hurt your hands. Mm-hmm. So instead of just shaping the wood, I shaped the wood and the back strap and the metal to a picture of an original Walker. Because if you blow them up, you can actually take measurements of them. Mm-hmm. And I matched the measurements to a original Walker. So now the grip should be exactly the same. And instead of just normally bluing the back strap, because I was going to regularly just cold blue it, mm-hmm. and my cold blue kept making me mad, so I ended up charcoal bluing it, heat bluing it. And it's pretty. It's really pretty blue.
Mm-hmm. So how did you charcoal blue it? What is the exact process? I mean, I know how people do it, but how did you do it?
So I use my charcoal. No. So what I normally do is actually use my barbecue pit sometimes. I'll polish the piece of metal till it's really, 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 really shiny. Mm-hmm. I will then put it in my barbecue pit, and I'll hit the barbecue pit to a certain temperature. I have to look up what I usually use because you can change the color depending on what color you want. I wanted the darkest blue I could get so it looks black. And you would, it's a heat blue. Mm-hmm. It would just get to that temperature and you take it off. I'd let it cool down slowly because every time I've ever quenched it, it would change color on me. So yeah, it's not a very tough blue either. When you buy them on the market guns that are those pretty blue, that bluing comes off really easily. Yeah. But this is, I'm like a kid when I play with my guns a lot, especially a new gun. I've carried this thing around all the time, and I still haven't gotten any of this off yet on my hat back. I'm always messing with it.
Huh.
But
I can't wait to see you shoot it.
Yeah, I'm looking
really good.
It came out really, really nice. I'm actually would love to find another one of these cylinders because doing the research on the Army San Marco, these early ones, you're 100% right. These are the closest you're going to get to a second-gen Walker. Mm-hmm. And the parts are not metric. They're actually the Walker size, like the second-gen Walker. And that's why the cylinder fit on my Dragoon so perfectly, and it timed. It'd be cool to have another one of these cylinders to actually have for my Dragoon, just because it looked pretty. Because there's really no. If you look at the, I don't know if you could tell me how much you see, but you could still see some of the people on horses.
Yeah, I can just barely see it right there. Yeah, right there's a good one. You got it in the light. Yeah.
I think that's the serial number right there. I'm not sure though.
Yeah, that's the deepest part usually.
Yeah, and I don't know what the deal with that. I think the gun was shot. Nothing else makes sense. Or every freaking time somebody came back, they look at the serial number and they go like that, wipe it.
Yeah.
That could be it too, maybe. Because I always notice that is here. It says Colt patent. It's a little bit brighter because I'm telling you, every time anybody ever picks these up and they look at it, they always rub their finger across it once or twice.
Yep.
And I'm wondering after 100 plus years of that.
Yeah,
that's why
that gun, it's 170 years of that. 170.
Yeah, it was 1849 is when it was made. So, and it still has all its serial number matching parts, for what I know at least. I know that the bolt is not original. I can get into that. If you ever want to know if you're looking at a first model Dragoon, or I guess a Walker as well, it would fall under this same category. If you look at the notches, your holes. Now let me pull up this Dragoon. Look how this looks. It's pretty oblong. It's not just a circle. It's actually long.
Yeah, oval.
And then oval. Now look at this Walker. This Walker is how it would have been when it was new. It's oval, but it's very small.
It's not that
compared to this.
Yeah.
Much more oval. So if you would have had this gun and say in the 1860s or 70s, and you broke the bolt and you needed a bolt for one, it wasn't easy to get a bolt. And if you had third model parts lying around or second model parts lying around, they would do this on a milling machine to open it up so you can actually use a later bolt from a third or second. You can just put it in there, and all you have to do is just file the edges down a little bit on the sides. You don't even have to really round it off. And then it makes it so the bolt will work in the first model. So it's just like having a normal one, but there's just no lead in.
Yeah. I got something to show you here.
Right away.
I'm going to kill my camera for just a minute.
Yeah.
And I'll be right back.
Okay. Wow. So I guess while we're waiting on him, I don't know if you guys can see that ivory though. Man, that's so pretty. Oh, please show up. It's 2, maybe. I don't know if you can tell, but when you're looking at it, there's these beautiful lines in it coming down. Let's see if this side will do a little better. Nah, camera just doesn't have the fidelity. But it's not just white; they're actually more yellowish colored, and there's these just white lines coming down. Looks just like wood, a lot like wood. It's very, very pretty. I'm gonna turn the chat on so I can see.
I'm back.
Oh, hey. Anybody know where to get number 10 caps? Unfortunately, number 10 caps are still hard to come by. I have a video on how to make percussion caps from scratch. If you can't find any, it's a way to shoot if you need to. But percussion caps are not an easy thing to get a hold of right now.
I have a few suggestions on that.
Back. Go ahead.
Can you hear me? It depends on how much you want to spend, but you can go on Gunbroker and you can still find CCI 11s, and you can possibly pinch them down to make them fit. Some guns CCI 10s fit. The Pieta, Spiller, and Burr and most of the 49 pocket models, the CCI 10s fit on them. So if you're just dying to literally have a gun, the CCI 10s are still fairly available on auction sites. If you're dying to shoot black powder, get you a 49 pocket model or a Spiller and Burr, the Pieta, Spiller, and Burr. Those guns, at least the ones we have, fit. Or you can also buy nipples, some nipples that are actually sized down to fit them. And the last but not least, you can go for, if you can find them, RWS 1075s on. I mean, you're going to pay probably going to pay $50 for 200 or 300 of them. I mean, they're high, but you can still shoot. All right, see you, Duke. Sorry I couldn't figure out that monitoring deal. I usually set the moderators up before the chat. And if I've tried it before in the middle of the chat, and when I do it, it kills the chat. So we'll do that next time. Go ahead. You got something to say, Snapper?
No, I'm just showing off the Griswold and Gunnison. So I don't know if you guys ever seen the video of me working on this thing, but the brass had polished itself because I was using it, like working on it and holding it, and that over time the corrosion on the brass went away. And when I was at that antique show, one of the old timers there told me to try this technique to get to make the gun look right again, and it worked. It worked very well. It's kind of scary to throw such an expensive thing in there, but man, it looked weird being all shiny. Especially when you see the rest of the gun is not. I mean, these things, the Confederacy beat the living crap out of these guns. These poor things were beat to death. I've never actually owned a gun this beat up, but it's almost done. I have to finish making the front sight post. Every time I freaking make one, I'm not having good luck making one. Just put it that way. I gotta, yeah. I need to go the route you said to just glue it in with red Loctite. But yeah, it's almost done. Well, the grips are glued on wrong because I haven't made them into one-piece grips because they're going to be sent out. But it'll be shooting very soon. It is the real deal. It's a real Griswold and Gunnison with the grips finally made on it. And you see the lean.
Yeah, the lean is not quite as exaggerated as ours. So
no, and it's kind of funny because looking at it now, it seems over exaggerated, but it's correct. It's all the real thing. And actually, I think Ethan was right when it goes to shooting this thing. It's
shoot it like a flintlock.
But it's like a flintlock. It naturally aims itself really well.
Yeah.
I actually kind of like it. I'm looking forward to shooting it, and I'm pretty sure, I'm very, very confident in saying this will probably be the only one ever filmed shooting.
Would be my guess.
Because all of them that I've been able to, even to talking to the Griswold and Gunnison Association, there's a club for when you own these things. Talking to them, they said out of their entire example, they have 3 that are not shot loose. And they own, in their club, they have almost every single one that's known to exist. Yeah. So that's 3 that could be shot if they wanted to shoot. And nobody's going to shoot these things because those are worth the most out of all of them. So they're not safe to shoot, and they were all shot like that. They were all shot out right after the end of the Civil War or during the Civil War, whatnot. So it's safe to say that there have never been any shot in well over 100 years. Pretty safe to say that.
And it will be awesome to see you shoot that.
It's going to be really, really cool to shoot it, because especially getting some of those Richmond Laboratory bullets. So we're going to be shooting Confederate-style bullets through it.
The sad thing is I can't shoot them in my Griswold and Gunnison.
They fit in this one great, man. They fit great.
The bores are just, the cylinders are just so tight, that 375, and the Pieta is just so tight. It is so hard because the Richmond Lab bullet is a 390.
We were talking about that when we measured. We popped one out, loaded it, and measured it. It was quite a bit bigger than what your normal. I don't think that's erosion either.
No,
because the erosion on the cylinder is not that bad. Mm-hmm. I think it's actually the caliber is physically larger. So these were actually a little bit more powerful than what your standard 51 Navy or whatever people say they should be. It's going to be a little bit more powerful than that because there's quite a bit more lead you're going to be able to throw down.
You'll also know that the original 51 Navies have bigger boards than the replicas too, and it goes the same for the 1860 Armies. I
didn't know that.
If you slug out your original 1851 Navy, you're going to find out it's closer to 381.
Yeah.
And and your Pietas and stuff are going to be 375s, and so you're getting the originals. You can get quite a bit more powder actually just by gaining that caliber, because all of them have a bigger circumference.
That's one thing that I've also noticed when everybody talks about their loading, when they're loading these things. I always can get quite a bit more powder in them than what people tell me they put in there, but I never see anybody shooting originals, so that explains it then, because the bigger, being more round, you could fit more powder in it.
The 1860 Army is the same way. I've said it's coned. It is coned, but the outside is actually, I can't remember exactly what it is, but at the mouth, it's fairly wide. And so you're not getting near as big a ring, but man, they're a dream to load. They're so easy to load an original compared to a Pieta as far as cutting that ring.
For my 1860, even though I haven't shot any real 1860s, no, I have that 1860 barrel and cylinder that I'll put on my 51 Navies and shoot it every now and then. Yeah. It is easy to load as well. It's very easy to load.
Yeah.
I never knew that it was conical, but I did look at it, and I believe it is conical by just looking at it.
Yeah. Well, I think I've sent you the picture of the actual diagram and measurements. It's quite a bit.
Yeah, you did. I just finally looked at the old cylinder that I had bought, and it was the same way. So I have a cylinder. One day I'll have an 1860.
Yeah. Let's go over here to comments. Go ahead.
I want to know if anybody in the audience have ever tried that. Take a 51 Navy Pieta, and then, because on a real one, you could take the barrel and the cylinder off, and I'll stick an 1860 Army cylinder and barrel on, and I can shoot it in 44.
Well, you're gonna have a hard time with the Pietas, because the 36 caliber 51 Pietas, all the ones that I have, are still have the water table cut. So they're all actually 1860 Army frames, even on their 36 caliber 51 Navies, because they're just putting the bigger. I mean, if you look at all of them, they'll have a dip in them, even the ones that come 36.
Interesting.
Gunsmith 4570 says early 1960s Battle of Vicksburg by Rink Harden. Oh, were you asking him about books while I was gone?
Huh?
Were you asking him about books while I was gone?
Mm,
Oh, they're just talking
I'm gonna have
about
to-
books then. A American says, I'm sure if I ever use my Revelations 1911 for self-defense, they would label me a religious nut and burn me.
I'm
Yeah,
sure.
they'd probably call you a zealot.
Yeah.
Classic Guns Today, Gunsmith 4570, a very recent good book called Vicksburg by Samuel Mitchum is also great. I'm in the middle of it and enjoying it. Pemberton actually was a great general with that. He had to work with what he had to work with. Gotcha. And we've been having this discussion about books here lately, how that most of the people online and in the forums have their knowledge from books that were written in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. And now anybody who's doing historical videos, we have to have books that are post 1999 because there is a certain man named R.L. Wilson who tainted about every Colt book with not truths. And so
it's bad. A matter of fact, 90% of the crap you hear is usually from one of his books that's not true too. There's really a lot of stuff that people take as gospel with cults that is not even close to true.
And the modern books are just amazing as far as that you open one up and you're like, wow, everything I've known is not true.
I met a guy who was actually friends with R.L. Wilson at that gun show here in Vegas. There's quite a bit of people there that actually found out who went to jail under him. He didn't go to jail because he passed the amount of time for one, and the other one he paid his way out pretty much, I believe.
He did get convicted though.
Yeah, he did, but he didn't really serve anything.
Yeah.
So a lot of people there knew him personally and knew of him, like worked with him and everything. And I wish I could get into that deeper. I would love to have an actual real interview with the guy with the camera on, because my memory sucks, and man, that was a lot of interesting stuff. Apparently he belonged to the Ferrari Club of America. He got a taste of money and did not want to lose that. So that's why he started basically they don't believe he ever really faked any guns.
No.
But he was money laundering guns from the museum. He would take a gun, say it was something that it wasn't.
Yeah.
And then
he would manipulate the gun.
He would manipulate it, thinking, like this Remington. Well, they didn't do any real nickel. This one was a really rare special nickel under a brass, and it's worth $2 million. That's what he was doing. And since he had the abilities that everybody believed him to, he could sell a gun that was a $3,000 gun for $100,000. That's what the problem was.
I got some comments, and I'm not going to go too deep into it, but on the 1860 Army video, some people were asking about the quote-unquote 3,000 government 1860 armies that were made for the government after the building burnt down. Supposedly 3,000 of them were made in a tobacco plant down on the river. And so I dug into, because that was nowhere to be found in any of the modern books I went through, because according to them, there was no contracts after November 14th of 1863. So I dug and finally found on a forum where people were like, and the forum was written in like 2002 or 3. It was one of them really old ones. And they were like, R.L. Wilson says that these guns are very expensive because they're made in a tobacco plant down on the. And I was like,
I can guarantee you that's I don't know that, because I'm like you. I've never seen anything other than hearing from people.
Yeah,
that's probably not true.
And
if you have to think about it, even with all these spare parts they had lying around, that factory burned big time.
Yeah,
there was nothing left.
They were in such a fight with the government wasn't going to buy anymore. It wasn't going to happen.
Yeah, that too. And if you look at the real situation with Colt at the time, they were pretty much ready to tell the government to go screw themselves.
Yeah, and the Remington was $13 a piece, and the Colt was $25 a piece, and Remington was ramped up.
You ever seen how much Griswold and Gunnison charge for these little?
Probably an astronomical amount of money.
It was $50 a gun. $50 for a brass frame replica.
Well, you weren't going to get one anywhere else.
That's true. It did hold its value. I have to say, it did hold its value, though.
It gets worth more than that now. Okay, we'll go back over here. Gunsmith 4570, very good looking grain in that ivory snapper.
Did you get to see it? I couldn't tell if you guys.
I saw it from a distance across the room. Yeah, I've
okay.
seen
Through my phone, and all I could see was just white. It all looked the same.
Yeah, I've actually seen the pictures, the high quality pictures. It's really good.
It's so pretty in real life. I understand why ivory was so sought after. I really like it, and I wish I had a lot more of it.
Yeah,
I'm addicted to it.
Classic Guns Today says, Reverend Snapper, you are. By the way, if any of you guys are wondering, yes, he does deserve that name legally, but we're not getting into that.
We're not going to get into that, all right?
Classic Guns Today says, Reverend Snapper, you're pretty talented at doctoring your guns.
Thank you. Thank you.
He's doctoring 2 of my guns, too. I need to put out
I have the healing touch when it comes to Colts and some Remington.
I need to put out that video on the Herbert Schmidt from our side so that you can get when you decide to get into that a little more.
Oh yeah, I can't wait to jump into that. That's going to be fun. That's a neat little gun. I like it a lot. Even though it's just a Rough Rider, I like it a lot.
Yeah. Hey, you guys will be looking up on his channel. He's got 2 of our guns right now that he's restoring for us, just because we have machine shops, but we don't have the ability to do the. I mean, we have the ability, but probably not the skill.
You don't have
do
the
some
ADD.
of the finest.
No, you just don't have the ADD and the.
Yeah,
the,
I don't have
time to just sit there and do nothing all day.
We can stick a couple. We can stick a couple pieces of angle iron together pretty good, but that's about it.
Most people don't have the time to sand or polish a screw for 16 hours to polish it or something. You know, that kind of stuff that I have. Fortunately, that God has graced me with the amount of time that I can do those kind of things.
Gunsmith 4570 said 22 LR reloader makes a number 10 cap maker now. Yes, I've seen those.
I got one.
Is that what you have?
I have the number 10 and the number 11.
Cool.
I have both. Yeah.
And let's see. Gray Pilgrim said he was at a gun show today. No one had caps. Only one dealer had primers. Yeah, we've moved on to Magnum Primers actually for our 45 Colts because we found that Magnum Primers work and they're a lot cheaper for a lot of things. So you just got to cut back your powder load. But yeah, primers.
I can't wait for the primer situation to be gone because I really want to start shooting my guns more.
Yeah, we paid $50 for 500 Magnum Primers on the Gun Broker. It was kind of an amazing deal we stumbled into.
That's a pretty good deal. Even that's a pretty good deal for today. Just finding 500 primers.
Plowboy's Ghost is in. He says, "Gotta say, I'd shoot it."
Hey, Plowboy, I really would like to get with you on because I'm going to be making a video on this Griswold and Gunnison soon, this Rowan, because I know your family was in your descendants, or you're descended from people who actually fought at that fight. So I'd like to talk to you about that if you're up for that, sir.
I'm sure you guys can work that out. Gray Pilgrim says, I have a Griswold and Gunnison bought from Midway about 2 months ago. Yeah, you and Squib load both. Squib has one too.
Yep.
They're pretty nice. I got to ask, does yours have the plastic grips that they're putting on them now? I've never seen them before recently with plastic grips.
I don't get that at all.
We got quite a few here. I haven't been scrolling down. Hello, okay. We got Plowboy. American said, Plowboy, you made me build a curse converter cap and ball revolver from watching your videos. Plowboy's made a lot of us do a lot of things from watching his videos. Yeah. And let's roll on down. Gray Pilgrim said, Wilson equals evil. Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much.
You wouldn't believe how many people on the internet, though, their cult lore they take from him and they don't even know it.
Yep.
Plowboy said he's never ran a full 40 grain load through a real conversion. Yeah, I'm sure it'd be fine with black powders. Not very high pressure. And then they're just having a conversation there. Go on down here. Let's see if there's anything more for us. Prices are nuts. Soylent Green's in here. Hi, Soylent. Prices are nuts. Brownells had them for $140 for 100 primers before hazmat shipping cost. Crazy. Yeah, that's insane.
Yeah, that's insane.
I was wondering how Plowboy's plan was working out, where he said he didn't want any money from anybody, but if they slipped him 5 primers in a Ziploc bag and mailed them, he wouldn't mind. Gray Pilgrim has plastic grips, evidently.
That sucks. I don't know why they started doing that because it's ridiculous. No cap and ball gun back then had plastic or even the gutta percha grips. 2-piece grip.
Giant Purple People Eater 97 has a question for you, Snapper. He wants to know if you get this reference. This is the greatest handgun ever made. The Colt Single Action Armory. 6 bullets, more than enough to kill anything that moves.
I do.
But you have to think about it.
Yeah, I have to think about it. I know I've heard it a million times. It is from.
I'm not going to help you.
No, you're gonna have to help. I'm having a brain fart, man.
You think about it. You'll remember it. You'll remember it. Let's move on. Plowboy said he runs 777 in a conversion. Cool. Plowboy has not scored a single primer yet. He. What's the deal? Everybody says buy me a cup of coffee on YouTube or whatever. Don't buy him no coffee. Send us a primer.
Send me some primers.
Like I said, guys, if you want to look up into Magnum Primers, you can use them for 45 Colt. Back your powder load off just a little bit. They work really good, and they're cheaper because people aren't looking for them. I guess I don't know. Just giving you a tip there.
I keep thinking it's Clint Eastwood, but it's not.
No, it's a book. Gray Pilgrim says, by the way, the new Griswold fits the Taylor 38 Special conversion cylinder. Cool. Then you have a converted Griswold.
So I have a question on that for guys. How do you guys step up get rid of the problem of the 375 bore?
They're probably using hollow base wad cutter bullets.
Hollow base. Because I'm sure if you just shot regular 38 special like it's supposed to, you wouldn't have any accuracy at all.
Well, it depends. Depends on what you're casted out of. If you cast it out of dead soft, you can kick it hard enough with the powder to expand it even without a hollow base.
I've always wanted to try hollow basing a normal bullet, like a Johnson and Dow.
But the hollow base, I mean, you can actually, I've seen people take and they'll cast a standard wad cutter and then take a drill and drill a hole in the base of it. And
I was thinking about doing that for an upcoming video with that Walker because I need a bullet to go really, really, really fast.
The only issue you're going to have with it is you got to actually add more powder because then you have a void.
I was going to fill the back of the bullet with the powder and once it's full and then cram it in there.
Yeah,
I need a Johnson & Dow bullet to go really fast for an upcoming video.
A American. Okay, you might going to start on 30 grand. He's talking Plowboy. Soylent Green. One eye, he's singing the Purple People Eater, probably because of the giant Purple People Eater. He says he just shoot balls. And they're still just having a conversation there. Plowboy's got a lot of information, guys. You over there and watch his videos. A lot of load information and a lot of common sense stuff.
Yeah.
And Classic Guns Today said 2 friends of mine told me about a week ago on 2 different occasions, told me primers are back on the shelves in Academy where I live. They still limit like 2 boxes per customer. Yeah, I've seen videos of people walking around places where there's a ton of primers, but definitely not here.
I'm gonna have to, I really need to check out mine where I live because usually stuff shows up, but I have not been out shopping at all.
Well, I had one of the first times I had the terrible feeling just a week ago. Because we have always stayed stocked with thousands of large pistol primers, and I reached in the box. I was sitting there ready to load 150 45 Colt. I loaded 5, reached in the back of the box, and came up empty. And I was like, ah! So I ordered 500 more, and I have 150 loaded.
Oh, that's not good.
I don't know what I'm going to do with the rest. Probably load 44 Magnum. I was going to show this off, guys. If you guys have never seen one of these. This is the Cloverleaf Colt House pistol.
I'm still so glad you got that thing.
Yeah, they're not cheap. This is kind of one of them rare ones you don't see every day, and we had to really fight for this one. But it's one of the first bird head grip revolvers for Colt. It's in 41 rimfire. I love this. Watch how far, because it's only a 4-shot. So watch how far that cylinder rotates every time you cock it. It's like. It's because it goes so far to be a 4-shot. I like how, and Colt actually put even though it's a cartridge revolver, they put a in between the cylinder stop. And so then it looks like you got 4 there, and it's kind of interesting. It's a little loose here, but like the ejector rod, you load right here. There's no loading gate. It's just, once you're on half cock, they can't come through. Yeah. But it's like, here's the ejector rod. You see that? It's actually your base pin. And you just take it out, and so your base pin is out.
Something I did not know.
Your base pin is completely out when you're using your ejector rod.
So you can't just rotate it, or your cylinder.
You can. You can, but you got to be careful. It's got this little tab deal, but yeah, the cylinder can fall out. It's kind of a Mickey Mouse.
I did not know that at all.
But I mean,
I really need to get into that book. That book you were telling me about, the smaller, these little pocket pistols.
Yeah, and it's just, it's a cool little gun. They only made 30,000 of them, but Duke says it's an ugly gun. But they advertise this one as 85% nickel. I don't think that's still 85% nickel if you look at it. You can see the brass frame is coming through.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, that's one of the rare little.
A lot of them are brass frame, nickel plated. If they're nickel plated, they're usually a brass frame gun.
Yep, that's just one of those little rare Colt revolvers that they made in the early 1870s. That one of their few rim fires. It's a really cool little gun. I can see why they call it a house pistol. How wide it is. It's like a single action army cylinder on a Derringer frame. So it'd be kind of awkward to carry in your pocket, I think.
I'm kind of confused why they didn't just make it like a 6-shot.
I think the idea was to save weight. They did make it a 5-shot later.
Did they?
But the idea is to make it save as much weight as you can and make it as small as you can, because it's only 41 rimfire. It's a Derringer round, but it's they did make it a 5-shot later. But in order to be in 41, they couldn't really make it a 6-shot without really making it really big.
Really big.
Yeah.
I got you. So they wanted big caliber.
Yeah. But this is actually, the Cloverleaf 4-shot is actually the more rare variety, the earlier variety. The 5-shot, there's actually a lot more of those out there.
Let's see, what else is left on snappers?
Yeah, let's go over there. Plowboy said he's just a drinker with a gun problem. Oh. And Soylent Green said, wow, never seen that model. When were those made? Those were made from 71 to 70. The Cloverleaf's actually made to 74. The 5-shot model, which wasn't a Cloverleaf, it was completely round cylinder, I believe was made till 77. They didn't stay very long. They only made 30,000.
I still need to get one of those open top 22s. Now that I found out that was neat information. Finding that kind of saved the company.
I have that. We have that one, but it's over there. We need to make a spring for it, or buy one with a spring. But
still, one of my most favorite pistols to shoot lately, though, is this little guy, this little 49 pocket that you guys picked up. Yeah.
I've actually held that one in my hand.
Yep. There's 2 guns here you've held in your hand. I think. Yeah, the Walker and this one.
Yeah. Gun Auction Action 2, guys.
Great little gun, man.
That one might be Gun Action Auction 1.
Yeah.
Gun Auction Action 1, I believe. You can see some more of that one.
Great little gun. I love this thing. They're fun to shoot. It's cheap to shoot. Yeah, it's a great little gun.
Did you ever put the Pieta nipples in it?
Yeah, that's what's in it now.
Yeah, you had to rebore it.
No. So what I did is if any of you guys watched my video on that, so the nipples were stuck in this gun on the cylinder, and I'm actually doing it to the 51 Navy that's here. I cut the top of the nipples off because I couldn't get them out, and I used an end mill on my milling machine, and I drilled it out, and the goal was I found a set of nipples for the Colt itself, the actual original Colt, but they're number like 6s, some weird size that really small that nipple or your normal caps don't fit on.
Did you ever try the CCI 10s on that?
On the ones that are on the gun now?
On the originals.
Oh, there's nothing. That's what I have, mostly CCI number 10s. And I have a lot of the Winchester. No. Remington number 10s.
Yeah.
And but
You
nothing.
have a
fit
lot
on
of
them, not
Remington
even
number
close.
10s? You have a lot of Remington number 10s?
I don't got.
Care to put your
I got
address
12
out
number
there,
10s.
man?
I ain't got nothing.
Let's see. I got you got a 10 of Remington number 10s. I got 4 or 5 Mausers here. I might.
I know, right? It's getting to that situation where the ammo is costing more than the guns lately.
Yeah.
But I made the decision because I like to shoot the gun, and it doesn't hurt it because the metric threads are very close, and if I ever wanted to, I would just redo it. You could rethread something into it, and then cut it, and rethread it again.
Mm-hmm.
But these are actually Pieta nipples that I drilled it, tapped it to metric for the Pieta nipples, and I am very happy I did. The gun loves it. The gun shoots better because the nipples fit better. I've never had a single cap jam since doing this. And if I ever needed to, I could put those slick shot nipples on the gun to make it act better if I had any issues. But it went from, they were really bad. They were really, the hole on the inside was massive. And if you've ever cocked an original Colt with a spring on it, this one I actually have a little bit of a cowboy trick I like to do with my originals if I don't want to change the springs out. Put a piece of leather under it, and it actually lowers the tension a lot. But it fully down like it should. This is hard to cock, even as a grown man today. I still can't think of some petite, Victorian lady cocking this gun. But it was blowing after firing it with it. Without the little leather on, it was blowing the hammer back. And putting these on, it runs great.
They were evidently just eroded then, probably.
Yeah, they were eroded to the point where the center of them were gone. I mean, it was much larger than it needed to be. But putting these on, the gun acts perfect. It shoots great. It's it's a fun gun to shoot.
Yeah. Let's go over here. We said we got some some people talking. Oh, Jeffrey Davis. Hello, Mr. President. He bought the Cimarron 1873 Cavalry and 45 Colt, but it was about $50 a box. I could not find any at all, so I sold it for $600 and bought a Colt 1851 second generation with the case. I believe if you got the better end of that deal by a long shot.
I think so too.
That gun will be. Give that gun 10 years, it'll be worth 3 of the Cimarrons or 4. Great.
So
Go ahead.
So I actually kind of wanted to talk about those second gens. I've actually praised those a couple times for people. Shoot them, please shoot them. Don't, because when it comes to shooting versus not shooting on those, it depends on what the gun is, right?
Yeah.
The majority of those second generation guns, the black box guns, those are going to be the only ones that will ever be valuable. The third generation Signature Series will never be valuable, really valuable. No. They'll be a little bit more valuable than a Pieta or a Uberti, but not crazy valuable. But the black boxes have not actually even hit the price they sold at, inflation-wise. If you look at them, they look cheaper, but inflation, they're around the same price they sold when they were new. Yeah. Everybody who bought those because they thought that they were going to become extremely valuable one day. Nobody shot them. So if you're ever getting one that's not shot, it does not change the value of the gun if it's shot versus not shot. Now, in 100 years, that could change. But right now, that means nothing. It means absolutely nothing.
What do you think the black box Walker is worth right now?
Right now, $1,200 to $1,300.
Okay, I still feel good about that then. We gave
Not
200. Gave 200 for it.
I know you paid 200 for yours. That's really good. The black box Colts, and this is the thing too. And I don't mean to offend anybody because I love those Colts too. I could personally consider them Colts because they have Colt markings on them, and they're made to a high quality. But they were not made in the Colt factory. They were not made by Colt employees. They were made by the same people who make Henry. It was in that factory when they were made. And I don't care if parts and castings could have came from Italy. Who cares? Metal's metal. As long as it's a quality metal, that's all that matters. Hell, I bet you if you actually look at Colt, you'll probably find out in the 1873s that this stuff could have came from Spain. Whoever knows what they were buying their steel from.
The only thing I can say about the black box guns is they're finished in Colt factory. They're not made in the Colt factories, but they're finished in the Colt factories. The case hardening is done there, the bluing is done there, and the polish is done there. So that does give them.
They're at the highest finish. They're the closest to the original gun that you can get. Period.
Yeah.
They're made to the exact same standards. Supposedly, I've never got to measure them versus the real thing, and that's kind of hard because you're gonna get a gun that has wear and tear over 150 years to measure onto a brand new gun. You're not going to get perfect numbers.
And he's just talking about the cap and ball stuff, guys. Second generation single action armies, that's a whole different story.
Yeah, that's all different. That's all. When we get into the single action armies, that gets a little mixy because then there's some that are worth as much as first gens, and then there's some that are worth almost nothing. But the cap and ball second generation Colts, they are great. Black box Colts. Shoot them though. Please shoot them. It doesn't. If you're gonna have one, I know they're beautiful. They look beautiful, and if you want one to look on the wall and you don't shoot anyways, then fine. But if you bought one hoping to shoot it, and then you kind of like, oh man, I really don't want to shoot it because it's never been shot. They've all not been shot. Everyone, I would say about 90% of the ones I've ever come across have not been ever shot ever. And truth be told, they are already shot. They were shot several times at the factory. They zeroed them at the factory. The only reason you can't tell it is they proved it and zeroed it before they blew the gun. So technically the guns have been shot anyways. Sorry to go off on this little tangent, but it doesn't hurt the value of the gun. The gun is in still perfect condition. All that matters is condition.
Yeah, just
if
clean
it's
it.
been fired or not, nobody, I guarantee you, every person that'll praise it will not matter. The only time that's going to matter is maybe 150 years from now. And I promise a lot of those second gen Colts will probably not been fired by then either. Because the longer they get, the less people want to shoot them.
They are slick though. The second generations are.
Don't get me wrong.
And the internal actions. What'll make they are the best shooters. I mean, the internal actions on them are just butter. They're better than the originals because they're not as wore out, and they're better than the replicas now. But like he said, it's a completely different thing. But I think Jeffrey Davis, you saved yourself a lot of money there. I believe you should have done that all day, every day, probably.
I would have done the exact same thing as you as well, especially for a boxed one, because one in a box is worth a lot more money than just, out on its own.
I put our box up there at the studio behind Ethan. That way, when he does Smith & Wesson videos, the Colt can peek out at him.
But please don't take it that I'm trying to hate on those guns. I'm not.
Yeah, I don't think
they are the best. They're the closest thing you can ever buy to the first gen. To actually, if you want to feel what it actually felt like to shoot a 51 Navy when a 51 Navy is brand new, that's the only way you're going to get that. Except buy a brand new 51 Navy that was never shot. Don't release it.
Okay, then don't shoot that one. If you buy an original,
if you find a first gen that's never been shot by, dear God, don't shoot that one.
Okay, let's go back over the comments. Soylent Green said, some of you Smith & Wesson or Smith Model 3 fans, have you seen Cimarron's first model American? I've got a 44 special on pre-order. Shoot 44 Russian black powder in it. Yeah, I've seen them. They look really, really cool. Especially you can get the there's a model that's a guy's name now. I can't think of it. He was in the Civil War. Then after the war, he was one of a few guys that went up to Nebraska. I can't remember his name, but he's engraved all over it. But those are awesome guns. Ethan's been looking for one original for a long time. And I think he might have his eye on one right now, actually, in original 44 in American. But yeah, Cimarron puts out some excellent guns if you can afford their Schofield or Smith & Wesson guns. A American said, Plowboy is a legend for the guys who love cowboy guns. That is true. Mm-hmm. Caleb Blackwell just got an 1877 Colt made in 1898. Good.
Very nice.
Those guns are a lot tougher than people give them credit for. Go ahead.
I want one so bad. I need one of those so bad. It's one of those where things like this pop into my life where you're like, you know what, I have to jump on it.
Mm-hmm.
But every time I'm about to buy a 77, something happens.
Man, we're going to have to hurry up and get our 77 video out now. Everybody and their dog looking at 77 video.
Mm-hmm. They're going to start getting expensive right before I need to buy one.
Yeah. Gray Pilgrim said, I just bought some rare ones. A Frank Wesson 1869 single shot 22 short. Cool. And his 1859 32 rimfire rifle. And he said, and a full box of 32 rimfire short rounds that cost $100. He shot one. Yeah, Grey Pilgrim. We have shot. We've done that too. We went out. You can actually buy. I'll give you a hint here. You can buy cartridges that are made for 32 rimfire today. You got to look around for them. I can't remember their names. They come in a little blue box, but they are made for the rifles and they're smokeless powder. But since yours is a rifle, it would probably handle it. We actually bought those and we used them to shoot in our Model 2 Smith & Wesson. And we pulled the lead out of them and reloaded them with black powder and shot them. Now we have gone to the company that makes them where you load them with a 22 rimfire blank. It took probably 6 months to get the cartridges to us that we ordered, but they finally showed up, and that's really the way to go. You load them with a 22 rimfire blank in the side. They're special cases, and it works really good.
Hey, Garrett, on those real quick, how many do you get when you order those? How many rounds or cases?
I can't remember. I think it might just be 12. I'd have to ask Caleb. It's like you either get 12 or he might have got 24. And I mean, they're fairly expensive, but they're not. It's not like you're gonna. It's not like a bottleneck cartridge that you're gonna like hurt. Yeah, you're not gonna wear them out. Yeah, they're gonna take forever to wear out. But I think it's 12 or 24, maybe more. I have to look again. 19th century guns are awesome. Yes, they are, Grey Pilgrim.
Yes, they are.
Giant Purple People Eater 97 Snapper. How mainstream was this? Is directed to you. How mainstream was the 1851 Richard Mason conversion in the West? A lot of the old and movies are saturated with chopped down cavalry model single actions.
Okay, so the 51 Navy's Richard Mason conversions and the 1860 Army Richard Mason conversions were the most popular guns on the Old West for the most part, other than pocket pistols. Yep. You would have probably found more people holding a 51 Navy or a 1860 Army, which now perfectly gets to the last pistol. A 51 Navy like this one, Richard Mason's conversion. This is a Type 2 later on, and Garrett even has one.
Okay, it's back there.
They were realistically, I personally believe if you were back then, that's what you would have seen more than single action armies. For a time, I would say probably until the 1880s, you would have seen mostly these.
I actually was going through a kind of a rare book, and I was showing Snapper last night. I found a chart that was 1873 single actions versus like your 22 open top, and it was amazing. In 1872, how the company just bottomed out. They went so far, it went off the page.
They went negative $300,000 in debt.
In 72 and 73, and it didn't come back for a long time. And what they were making their money on was the little 22 pocket pistols and the Richard Mason Type 2 conversions, and they made those things all the way up until 1878.
And that little 22, it actually brought Colt to almost a net profit, which is just astonishing because they were all upgrading for the 73 single action Army, all the cartridge guns, like for real cartridge guns. And yeah, those little pocket pistols, especially the 22 open top.
And people were either buying like you said, the conversions or the open tops. And when I say open top, not the 72 open top, that's a whole different animal. Yeah, that's a little run of 7,000. We're talking about the Richards and the Richards Type 2, also known as the Richard Mason conversion. That Richard Mason conversion, I don't have the numbers on it, but it was so popular that when they ran out of spare parts for 1860 armies that they had left over, they literally fired up the old machines and started making brand new conversions straight from the factory because they were cheap and people liked them. This one isn't one of those straight from the factory. It was a frame that was from a 51 Navy because the frame shows that the gun was made in 62 or 63. I have to look again. But I mean, the barrel you'll notice it has no loading lever. Yeah. The trigger guard and back strap, it's all steel. They got rid of the brass. Like his has brass, which is really cool. But when this one was probably went through and converted, they were at that point where they weren't using old parts. They were making parts brand new. Now my cylinder is not an original one, but the cylinder in this gun would have been made brand spanking new. Yeah. All they would have really kept was the frame itself. That's it. Yeah. And like I said, they were literally building them from the ground up, like all new parts, everything brand new.
Yeah. Yeah, you couldn't even get it where it was a straight 51 Navy Richards Masons, where it was the frame was brand new as well.
Yeah, because at one point you could buy the Type 2 conversion for $9, and the single action Army was $17. And in that day and age, that's a big deal. A big deal. And they both did the same thing.
Yeah.
I mean, one of them was in 44 Colt. They never made, as far as I know, they never made the conversions in 45 Colt officially. Somebody probably did somewhere, but I don't think the company ever did. But
I mean, I know it's the same size bore, so it would just be the die that would or your cylinder that would matter. The barrel bore itself wouldn't matter. But
Colt always kept them separated. But I'm sure somebody converted one to 45 Colt.
I'm sure.
Actually, what would be different probably is your rim width, and that would have a lot to do with the depth of the cylinder versus the back of the recoil shield. Because the 44 Colt, unless I'm wrong, I'm pretty sure the 44 Colt has a lot thinner rim.
You know what? I need to get that book. I have a book on conversions that is like the Bible for conversions. It was like a $400 book, and it's not mine, but I need you to look at it because I don't know why I'm thinking it was 45 Colt.
I'm gonna kick out of here one more time. I'll be right back.
Okay. Hello, everybody. It's kind of weird when I'm only one person on the mic. But yes, going back to that, if you were in the Old West, realistically, not in a movie, if you actually got in the time machine and went back to the 1870s and even the 1880s, I truly believe deep down that most people didn't carry full-size guns like this unless they were a rancher or cowboy. But if you were in a town, you're going to find pocket pistols, just like today. People don't carry full-size 1911s. They carry smaller guns. But the people who did carry full-size guns, it would have most likely, and the majority of them would have been 51 Navies or 1860 Armies, Richard Mason conversions. Because the numbers alone is so much more than what Colt single-action Armies were.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
I'm back. I have it. Still in the plastic. Ooh. This is the most expensive book we have ever purchased.
Hold on, now that you got to leave, I'll be right back.
This book right here costs more than a lot of Cimarron revolvers. It is a brand new, just never been opened. This one's signed by the author. You're gonna pay $300 before shipping nowadays for this book until they sell a bunch more. But I'm so excited, guys, to actually have this book, and it's half of the book is on conversions.
That one. And it's that one. This one is this one.
Yeah, and this one's signed by the author. So I'm gonna do this on camera. Take the plastic off of this thing because I have never looked in it myself, and it might tell us a few more things.
So a few people might know that my 51 Navy here, that conversion, blew up, and that's how I bought it.
Yeah.
But what's sad is after reading the script on the barrel, mine has the address Samuel Colt, Hartford, Connecticut strip. Going through this book, they only made 600 of those, which sucks that mine blew up.
Yeah.
But I'd probably never owned it if it didn't.
But all right, guys. This is cool. I didn't even know. I knew that it might be signed. It says, I don't know if you can see that. It says, I hope you like the book by Robert Jordan, author. So I was like, wow, that's cool. I have never looked in this book before. Oh, yeah.
It's a great book. It's a great book.
Have you seen? You have it?
Yeah. I think it's the same book I have here.
I think this one's newer. Is this the
yours is newer. Mine's an older.
Conversion?
I think mine has a cover on it.
I don't know if that's the same book.
This one is Bruce McDowell.
Yeah, I was about to say because this is the most modern.
Yeah, this is a different book.
I was about to say because this one's written in like last year. So
yeah, this one's a different book. This one is a good friend of mine. The guy who actually bought that broom handle behind me. He bought this book. He paid a lot of money for it. Crap ton of money. At the time, I think it was because I've had it now for like 6 months. So at the time, it was probably the only book you could get.
I'm going to have to go back. I can just tell by just looking at the pictures. I'm going to have to remake the 51 Navy video now.
Probably. I really want to, because that one just says the 51 Navy and the 1860 Army, but is it for conversions?
No, this is Colts 1851 and 1861 Navies and their conversions.
And their conversions, okay.
So
yeah, because this one studies of all the Colts conversions and other percussion else.
Yeah.
I want to see how they stack up. I'm kind of curious myself because I've gotten to the point in life where these books, when you find information that you've never seen before, it's so much more exciting than anything else.
Yeah, and that's one of the main reasons we got it, because you got to have the new information too. This is 363 pages.
I don't even know how much is in this one. It's got a lot. Now, I know that this one is a really renowned one because everybody, their brother, because we were looking for a conversion. This is the one that everybody pointed us to as the best.
Mm-hmm.
But this was a while ago, so that one's just new. I'm curious because this one actually has schematics and all your everything.
I saw some schematics in
there.
there.
You could make a conversion from the info in this book. Matter of fact, it's neat because like mine has the firing pin on the hammer, right? Because mine is a center fire. It even has schematics for the center fire 38 in the book for the 51 Navy Richard Mason. It's really neat. It even has the Remingtons as well. That's kind of why I'm curious about what caliber those were. I've never really looked at this book as much as I should have been.
Yeah. Soylent Green, Texas Jack. Yeah, that's who I was talking about. Soylent Green said he's never saw an original Colt conversion in good shape. They were definitely heavily used working man's gun. Yeah, yes. The one I got back there has been on our ranch for ever since the 1870s. It's a rimfire conversion. It's still in pretty good shape, but that's probably because the rimfire ran out in the 1900s. And then Soylent Green says, Gray Pilgrim wants to know why the gun books cost so much. It's because the modern ones, they've had to completely do away with all the research that was done before them because it's tainted by R.L. Wilson. And so to write a book nowadays, especially a 400-page book, they've got to take a couple of years of their life and literally go through the Colt factory. And a lot of the stuff that they don't have records on anymore because of the fire, they've got to find letters in people's attics, and they've got to find somebody's serial number in Texas and somebody's serial number in Maine and match those things up. And they have to do
real research.
And all of that has to be done before they can put out a book with their name on it. And what gets me is the people in Colt forums that will just say the same thing over and over again, and it gets preached as truth when these guys can rebut it. And if you say it, the people on the internet will be like, well, that's not true because we've always heard. But these guys, believe me, have gone through between that and Charles Pate and this new book here. I know that those guys have spent at least 5 years apiece in the production of these books. Soylent Green says 45 Colt wouldn't work in original conversions because the cylinder circumference was too small. That's why the conversion cylinders now are 5-shot.
5 shots.
You get a factory Uberti and they extend the frame. Yes, that's a good point.
Because the 44. Because I'm actually looking at it right here. I was about to get to that. I have an 1860 first model Richards conversion. It's center fire, but it's 44, and the 44 was a rim. It was a rimfire, or not rimfire, but a You know, like on a 22 where the actual head sits on it, it doesn't sink down. You actually have to crimp the head.
Mm-hmm.
You guys tracking what I'm saying there? Yeah. It doesn't shove into the cartridge. That's why the 44 rimfire and the center fire. But it looks like the center fire was the most popular. But yeah, like you said, I mean.
Well, it just depends on what you want. I think a lot of the ones that were sent in from people to be converted probably would have got converted to rimfire, but I don't think, since Colt wasn't producing their own rimfire cartridge, I doubt the ones that were being made in the factory as conversions, they probably weren't making them in rimfire, would be my guess.
This one shows another serial number range that were converted, and they all say center fire.
Yeah.
Here's one that said rimfire. So It's looking like you could just get it as either way.
Yeah.
It looks like the with the Richards Mason, the first model Richards were all center fire. But I need to read through this more. But that's what it's looking like it's saying. But yeah, everything that was 45 caliber, you have 44 caliber, you would think today is 45 Colt, was 44 center fire or rim fire. 100%.
Yeah.
Because the bullet would sit on top of the cartridge. It wouldn't sink down inside of it. It was crimped at the top.
Yeah.
I can't think of the name. You get what I'm saying?
Would sit down. You mean you're talking about the heel bullets?
Heel bullets, yes,
Yeah.
yes. That's what it is. It's heel bullets.
Yeah, so the
That's what
green
I'm
had it
talking
there
about.
too. Just a second.
Heel
Here.
bullets. Because that kept the diameter from not getting too big, and they could still fit it. Because technically, once you made a hole there, you didn't need it to make it any bigger.
Yeah. Going back to the thing about we were just talking about books, I've had to throw out all the information that I had on the upcoming 1862 Pocket Police, 1862 Pocket Navy, because the books have had issues and everybody was contradicting themselves. So I've had to come up. Only thing I have on it now is actually a Colt conversion book on those two guns, and this is by John D. Breslin. And the issue we've had for many, many years is everyone says that the 1862 Pocket Police and the 1862 Pocket Navy are actually in the same serial number range. And so you'll find right now on Gunbroker, if you type in 1862 Pocket Navy, you'll find one that says it's made in 1861 because everybody believes the serial number ranges are the same. Well, Breslin has found information, and I don't know if it's true or not or yet, but it's the reason I have this book. He's found information that seems to indicate that the 1862 Pocket Navy could very well have not been made until 1865 after the fire and could have its own unique serial number range. And if that's true, there are hundreds of people with what they think is first year production 1862 Pocket Navies made in 1861 that now their guns aren't worth that probably because they never were made in that serial number range. And it's very possible that none of those were made until 1865. And if I explain myself, most of you know this, but the 1862 Pocket Navy is a gun built on the 49 pocket model frame, but it is a 5-shot 36 with a Navy style loading lever. It's got just a single hinge and an octagon barrel. So it's not like the 62 Pocket Police. It's like what Snapper has there in his hand, but literally just a 5-shot 36.
Yeah, basically this. But this was a 5-shot as well. But it went to 36, so it had the blown up cylinder.
Yeah.
The same idea as an 1860 on a 51 Navy frame. Yeah. You know, blow up the cylinder. That's all they did with this exact same gun. I think the barrel was a little bit longer.
And the 62 Pocket Police is the same thing as that. Also, once again, blown up into a 36. Difference is it has the 60 Army round barrel, and the loading lever. But there are a certain set of those that have octagon barrels and old style Navy loading levers that we don't know now if they're made in 1861 and 2 or they weren't made until after the fire in 65.
That's interesting.
Some people even say they're made in 1853, but I got a book back there by Shoemaker that says that can't be true. So I might trust him.
I don't, because even you said 50.
There was a group of people that thought that they may have been made in 1853, like really early, but there's no evidence for that. And I got a book by Shoemaker back there who talks about especially the steel wasn't good enough back then to have made it that early.
Because it was the steel that really made the 1860 come alive. Yeah.
And the generally accepted date is they're made in 1861, and they're in the same serial number range as the 62 Pocket Police.
Interesting. I've never heard it that far back. That's kind of interesting. I'd love to see what their thoughts on that were, though.
Yeah, it's in the book by Pocket Models by Charles Shoemaker.
I need to get that book. That's a really neat book, man.
But he definitely says that's impossible. I'm starting to lean to the 1865 date myself, but that's just the things you'll find in more modern books. You definitely won't find it on a Colt forum. I can promise you that.
You know what I've always wanted to see myself? Like, what happened to all the old machinery from the coal factories?
I want to see that big steam engine that they had that ran the whole thing.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. Soylent Green said, so sad selfish people ruined historical data for self-gain like Wilson. Yeah,
yes,
he sold a lot of guns that were quote-unquote doubles, but they were like, that's where all the original non-patent 1860 armies went, all 7 of them. Nobody knows where, well, they know where they're at now. They're in private collections because they were quote-unquote doubles.
You know what's really sad too is I'm starting to learn this more, that I'm becoming bigger into buying the Colts instead of just studying them.
Yeah.
It's shocking how many Colts you can come across that you're looking at and you're like, this might not be a real Colt. This could be a brevet that was renumbered. It could be a Pieta, for God's sake, that was renumbered. I don't buy a gun unless the measurements on a I bring calibers, or I'll bring an original with me. Because we were actually looking for another Navy, some parts. And at the show we were just at in Las Vegas, the biggest, best show with the best people ever, I came across several 51 Navies that I know for a 1,000,000% chance they were not real 51 Navies. They were either brevet or they were made from a different company. And they were marked Colt 51 Navy, and they were not Colts. They were too small or way too big. And having one on me, I kind of made the guy pretty upset because I was like, there's no way these are the same.
Yeah.
And
you think
bringing
they
it down
all
and
their
showing that they're different. There are a lot of people
for one.
Yeah, for one, yeah. And talking to some of the people that are higher end collectors, you find out that a lot of the people that are still in the game, that are still big sellers, that are big known sellers, have been to jail for forging and faking Colts. It's always a Colt. It never fails. It's never a Remington. It's Colt. It's always Colt. And so there's a lot of people who won't even buy Colts that are really big into them because they're so scared that the pull is so tainted.
Yep.
But if you do your research before you buy, do not buy a gun. Please do your research before you buy, because then you know what you're really looking at, so you don't get swindled either way. And I bring measurements. You can find measurements of what a real 51 Navy is, an original first gen. Bring calipers with you. Use your brain. Look at it. Does that make sense? Does this not make sense? And that's the best way to not get swindled. Because there's been a couple times I've picked up single action armies that looked perfect, like this one, that were actually Cimarrons, that were completely gone through. It had real Colt markings on, the exact markings everywhere. The only way you could tell, because when we pulled the cylinder out on a Colt, there's a little cutout at the top where the barrel comes in. That was the one thing the person forgot to do. And every Colt has that cutout. And they'll actually make the little groove on the cylinders. When you look at them, when you fire one, you'll notice a real Colt. I have a black spot right here. I can't take this out. This is not smart. Yeah. There's a cutout on the top of the cylinder. Can't really see it. But at the top of the roof, you'll have the barrel come screwing in, and there'll be a hollow right on top of it. And it's there because it helps the crap go everywhere where you're fouling. And it helps the gun from fouling up. But fakes don't have that. And I've seen fakes where that's been done. And a lot of the times fakes are found because the font just isn't right. And I've seen some fakes that were very convincing. The only reason we knew they were fakes is because the cylinder was too big. That kind of stuff.
Yep.
And that's terrifying because those guns were $5,000, $6,000, $7,000. And could you imagine spending that kind of money, finally getting your original first gen Colt, and finding out you bought a Cimarron?
Yeah.
It's terrifying. So you have to do your research.
Yeah, you got to get books. Books are, I know they cost a lot, but believe me, the knowledge you have, you'll probably have more fun reading a book that has good knowledge in it. Yeah. And not like, not like your coffee table books and stuff, but when you start digging into one of these books and you get to that moment where you're like, oh, that all makes sense now. I've never knew that. Nobody's ever said that. I've never read that. It's worth more than when you take one of these guns out and shoot it, guys. It's just that much fun.
And that funny feeling when you have somebody keep repeating a lie that you just were proven that was not true. It's
Yeah.
this weird feeling. It's cool. It's fun. It's
Yeah,
really
a classic gun today said, y'all ever interact with the old gunsmith that goes by the name of Jeffrey Wheel, I think is on the Colt forum and other forums? He always has been a fountain of Colt info. I'm not. Yeah, I have not talked to him personally. I've talked to a lot of guys, and the people that are actually knowledgeable on those Colt forums, especially in the earlier Colt forums, like early 2000s, they were good. And there are people out there that are good. The only problem I really have with the forums is someone will come in and ask a question and instantly they'll be covered up with the status quo answer. And a lot of times that's maybe half right, maybe not half right. And then people leave and then they'll take that answer to another forum and it'll become a real echo chamber. And so nobody's actually going through and looking at the original research. It's too easy. Let's put it that way. But yes, I agree. There are people, like you just said, the old gunsmith, that are absolutely know what they're talking about, but you don't see them popping up as much because they're getting drowned out by everybody else.
Now, here's an interesting question on that as well. If you want to see something that we're still trying to figure out what it means, of course, I buy a gun and it has something stupid and weird about it. But you have your assembly number on your Colts, okay? On the loading lever of my 1882, it has a 2-digit assembly number. In the Colt books, it always says it's a 3 or 4-digit assembly number. I've only found 2 other Colts that had a 2-digit assembly number. Both are in the Cody Firearms Museum. And I went to, when I took this gun with me to this show, the Las Vegas show, asking the Colt experts what that means. And yeah.
I got to jump
I've
over
never
here.
found it in a book, and I've even went to the Colt forum and said that, and it was just, I got the easy answer. They didn't make it, but yeah.
Kind of like when they
didn't make it, the Cody Firearms Museum wouldn't have them either.
I saw someone ask on a Colt forum not long ago about their cattlemen and asking if there was ever in history a single action army with a brass frame because he wanted to use it for reenacting or a movie or something. And
you talking about the
instantly got covered up with
backstrap?
Brass frame, trigger guard, backstrap. Yeah. Sorry. And he instantly got covered up with people just calling him stupid. And, why in the world would you ask that question? Never in history. Don't you read books? And I actually got on that one. I don't think it was Colt forum. It was another forum. But I actually got on that one, and I responded with a picture. Said, guys, here's an original in a museum in Texas. It existed. They Colt made it that way, but somebody did. Because the 51 Navy grip frame fits on there.
Yeah, I made a video, one of my very first videos ever that I actually got a strike on because apparently you can't show those kinds of things. I took this 51 Navy grip and I put it on this single action army and they fit perfectly. And it is kind of neat because it's 1882, 1863. How that, I mean, it fit perfect. Perfect. There was nothing misaligned. It was like they were made yesterday for each other. So if you wanted a back strap and a trigger guard brass, or you broke yours and somebody had a 51 Navy around that was gutted, yeah, it happened. And you actually come across more than you think if you actually start looking at old pictures where there was a brass back strap and trigger guard.
Well,
and it's simple enough that they just came from another gun.
If you're doing something like first person reenacting, you can come up with this. You can think about it. You can say, I was riding my horse up the side of a mountain. My saddlebag slipped or something. My gun fell and broke the grip frame. I went back to my pack mule, got my old cap and ball 51 Navy out, put the grips on it. Guess what? It fit. And so you can actually write a story about a brass frame and such thing. So things like that can exist, and people write it off way too fast.
They do. It fits perfect.
Yeah. Gray Pilgrim said he went to a show today, not a big show, but folks were honest.
That's good.
Soylent Green said exactly. Something I can't stand is people online or in groups asking about a gun they overpaid for, and then they learned they're a sucker because they did no research. One of my pet peeves. Yeah, exactly. And Greg Pilgrim followed up. He said, at least the folks I dealt with were honest. He bought 2 mouse guns, the 1903 Colt and a 1920 Ortigas. How do you pronounce that? I don't know about the second one, but I know about if you gave any kind of good deal on that 1903. I mean, if you didn't spend $1,000 for it, you got yourself a good deal. I know those things are cheap, and they're just going through the roof as far as value goes. He said bought both rather below the market. Very good. Very good.
Give me 1 second. I'm going to try to see the chat myself. It's kind of cool.
We're going to shut it down here, guys, in a few minutes. If you want last-minute questions, go ahead. We're at 2 hours and 26 minutes. We'll go to 2.5 hours. Soylent Green said, yep, every first generation that I have that has that. I have a 1913 made Frontier 6-shooter in 4440 that letters to Naco, Arizona, Phillips Mercantile Company. It has that cut as well.
Yeah. I know he's something on top of the frame on the single action Army. I was talking about it that time. Yeah.
Gray Pilgrim says he has a single action Army 3220. Know how hard it is to buy ammo? Pretty hard, probably.
Pretty hard right now, probably.
Probably going to have to reload for it.
Yeah, that's what I would say. I would reload.
Yep. Gray Pilgrim said, I'm off to bed. Trust in God, folks. Well, good night, Pilgrim.
Good night, Pilgrim. You can always get a $20 silver plating kit and plate the brass to do it. That's a great idea. I keep telling people that myself. If you have a 51 Navy or 49 Pocket, any of those guns, even my Dragoon. This Dragoon, when it was new, the backstrap and trigger guard were silver plated. This 51 Navy were silver plated, and there's silver on this gun. There's still silver on that gun, and this little 49 Pocket. The brass was always plated. Every one that I've ever seen personally, I'm sure that there were some that weren't. Kind of makes sense, but
it's actually, if you go into the 1860 Army book, it's actually stamped out in the records. When you look at the first Savannah, Georgia order of 100, all of those were nickel plated on the brass frames.
Okay.
And then you got into the second 300 Georgia order, and they weren't. The Texas guns were all originally nickel plated. I mean, it's about half and half, but they are designated, and there's a lot. Like I would say, half of them were nickel plated.
Yeah, if you have like a Cimarron or whatever, like 51 Navy, and that's why a lot of those second generation and third generation Colt, those cap and ball Colts, you'll notice that they're always silver plated. Mostly, I think they still do make them and without but 90% of them are silver plated on the backstrap and trigger guard. And that's because that's common. Every gun I have that had a backstrap and trigger guard that was brass shows sign of silver on it at one time.
Mm-hmm.
Even my Dragoon, and which is kind of neat to think they were doing that in 1849.
Yeah, they actually did it a lot on the Pattersons too. But
how many people are still in the chat?
Oh, we still have 11 out there.
Nice. Thanks for sticking with us, guys.
We're about to let it go, guys. We will try again. I promise. I'll let you know in the community tab. We will try to get Trooper Cody and Steve back because we have. Oh, this is going to be such a great show when we get him. We will work on that this week. What's coming up video-wise, Snapper?
What's that again? Say that again.
What do you got coming up for videos?
Oh, we're going to be shooting the Walker soon. I'm going to show you about how I blued the backstrap and changed the wood sizes. I got your Remington video coming up. Working on that, getting the front sight put in and all the little things on fitting and there's a lot that I've done that you don't know yet, but fitting of pieces to get them perfect fit, not just fit. Mm-hmm. And we're going to get into more of the Griswold and Gunnison. We're actually going to be shooting it very, very soon.
Okay, so good.
Stick around for that because that's going to be historic, I think. I mean, like I said, there's an extremely high chance that this will be the only one ever shot on camera and probably the only one shot in over 100 years.
Before you do that, we need to all know so that we can all make make announcements on it, and then you should premiere it.
I would love
so
to.
We can all watch it at the same time.
That is actually a really good idea. A matter of fact, I want to. What I'll probably do when I shoot it, just to make it as so people know the day it's actually shot. I'll make a little thing to pass around as well as a little commercial kind of thing.
Yeah, and let all the channels know so we can announce it too, because it's gonna. Let's try to make it as big as possible.
I would appreciate that.
Over here on the 11BANGBANG channel, guys, we got a shotgun video coming out first thing in the morning. One of my absolute favorite shotguns, and then I have a lot of shotgun videos out right now. I know. Well, I promise we'll get back into cap and balls. I'm going to do my Griswold and Gunnison, just maybe even film it tomorrow if it doesn't rain. And and just trust in God. Keep your powder dry. Tune in next week, hopefully, for Trooper Cody and Steve and Zach History. Thank you all for coming out. Bye.